like to call this meeting to order for the City Council meeting of July 16th. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Aguilar Hernandez. Councilmember Escobedo. Councilmember Cordero.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Soto.
Here.
And Mayor Patino.
Here. First agenda item is public comment period, and I have one slip. Mr. Chirkop.
Good evening, City Council, City staff. Hope you're enjoying your summer and you're staying cool out there. It's been pretty hot. My members have been staying pretty busy. I just wanted to inform you, effective July 1, our membership is now 17.5% behind the average pay of our local market. The reason being is the agencies we survey with are receiving their negotiated wage increases. I'm here tonight to ask you to provide some additional authority to your chief negotiator. You know, as he stated months ago, it comes down to priorities. We are not claiming an inability to pay. I'm hoping that we can reassess those priorities and you can provide that additional authority. The second item I want to mention is the city manager recruitment. As I mentioned a few months ago, we would like to have some input in your city manager recruitment. We think it's important that labor and the employees of the city have some type of input on who we select as the next leader for our city. You know, there's a saying, you know, lead from the bottom up. And I think this will be a good opportunity for the city collectively to move forward, not just from the top down. Thank you.
Thank you. The City Council will now recess to a closed session and will reconvene to the regular meeting portion of the agenda at 5:30 p.m. Madam Clerk, can you please read the titles of the closed session items?
Yes, Madam Mayor. The first item is item 3A, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to California Government Code section 54957.6. And item 3B is public employee recruitment, city manager pursuant to California Government Code section 54956.8.
Thank you. We will reconvene at 5:30. Before we proceed with tonight's agenda, I would like to announce that item 14B, the sales and disposition agreement between the City of Santa Maria and Vernon Property Group, has been pulled from tonight's agenda per staff's request. And if the Vernon Group, I understand, is here tonight, if they would like to speak to that, they can speak to that. I'd like to note that the interpreter for this evening is Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, would you mind raising your hand in the back? Thank you. And you can ask him for a listening device if you like interpretation services. Antes de llamar a la Junta a orden, me gustaría notar que contamos con los servicios de interpretación para esta Junta. El señor Gonzalez está sentado atrás. I'd like to call this meeting to order for the City Council meeting of July 16th. And Mr. Attorney Watson, is there a report?
Yes, Madam Mayor. With respect to items 3A and B, instructions were provided to the negotiators. There is no further report to be provided.
Thank you. Now we will be presenting the proclamations. Councilmember Cordero will be making the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This proclamation is for National Night Out, which is an annual event, and it involves law enforcement nationwide. Whereas National Night Out began in 1984 as a community-building campaign that promotes strong police-community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderies to make neighborhoods safer, more caring places to live and work. And whereas the National Night Out campaign provides an opportunity for neighbors in Santa Maria to join over 38 million neighborhoods across 16,000 communities from all 50 states, U.S. territories, and military bases worldwide. And whereas Tuesday, August the 6th, 2024, from 5:30 to 8 p.m., the Santa Maria Police Department, along with the Recreation and Parks Department and the People for Leisure and Youth, also known as PLAY, will spend the evening celebrating police community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderies at the Santa Maria Fair Park at 937 South Thornburg in Santa Maria. And whereas the National Night Out celebration will include not only the Santa Maria Police Department, but also the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department, the California Highway Patrol, and various nonprofits from the community that promote health and fitness literacy and leisure services. Now, therefore, Alice Patino, Mayor for the City of Santa Maria, hereby recognizes Tuesday, August the 6th, 2024, as National Night Out in the City of Santa Maria and invite all residents and businesses to attend the festivities at the City Fair, in Santa Maria Fair Park. Witnessed here, and the mayor has caused her hand to be set on the seal of the great City of Santa Maria to be affixed hereto on the 16th day of July 2024, and here to receive this is Sergeant Diaz from the Santa Maria Police Department.
I say thank you for the proclamation, and again, we'd invite the whole community. I think last year we had about 2,200 community residents attend our event, and we're hoping to break that record this year. So if you guys are a nonprofit business and you want to come out and showcase your business or organization, we're more than happy to have you guys. Just reach out to our community outreach coordinator, Gina Avalos, and we'll get you guys in. But like I said, appreciate the support of the council, the city, and then all the other agencies that are supporting us. Thank you.
Thank you. The next proclamation will be presented by Councilmember Soto on Recreation and Parks Month.
Thank you. Whereas recreation and parks are integral parts of communities throughout this country, including the city of Santa Maria, and whereas recreation and parks promote time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas recreation and parks support physical activities by providing spaces for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pool, and numerous other activities that promote active lifestyles. And whereas recreation and parks programming and educational activities such as out-of-school time programs, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas recreation and parks increase a community's economic prosperity through higher property values, expanded local tax bases, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Recreation and Parks Month, and whereas the City of Santa Maria recognizes the numerous benefits derived from recreation and parks. Now therefore, Alice Patino, Mayor of the City of Santa Maria, hereby recognizes July 1st through July 31st, 2024 as Recreation and Parks Month in Santa Maria and encourages our residents to enjoy and support our parks and recreational activities. And here to accept the proclamation is Commissioner for Recreation and Parks, Rebecca Carey.
Thank you. Good evening, City Council and Madam Mayor. On behalf of the Recreation and Parks Commission, thank you for proclaiming January as Recreation and Parks Month in the City of Santa Maria. This recognition underscores the vital role that recreation and parks play in enhancing the quality of life for our residents by promoting physical health, mental well-being, and community connection. Our dedicated staff work tirelessly to maintain our parks, organize enriching programs, and ensure that our public spaces remain vibrant and welcoming for all. Your support amplifies their efforts and reinforces our shared commitment to a healthier, happier community. Thank you for your continued support and advocacy and recognition of the invaluable contributions of our Recreation and Parks team. Thanks.
Thank you. And, and please thank all the Parks Commission and everyone in Recs and Parks. They do such a great job. And there's so many people doing so many things. And we have, what, 29 parks in Santa Maria? 30. Yeah, 31? Oh, okay. Anyway, I lost count there. Anyway, that's right. We have the plaza and the new one. Okay. But thank you very much for the work you guys do on the commission to keep us heading in that direction. Next order of business is business of the quarter, and Councilmember Cordero will be making the presentation.
Councilmember Cordero?
Along with the Chamber of Commerce?
Oh.
Yes. Oh. Did you want to do it? Oh.
The chamber's going to get going?
Yes, here you go.
You want me to read these now?
Yes. Or, well,
Okay. What's that?
He will read
Yeah,
the
go.
information about the business.
yes, go ahead, Michael.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm Michael Boyer. I'm the CEO and President of the Santa Maria Valley Chamber of Commerce. And we're here to recognize two outstanding businesses. The first is Tony Crivello Insurance, and the proprietor of Tony Crivello Insurance is Ann Crivello.
It's a long way, so I'm going to take the other one with me.
Okay. And the second business we are recognizing is JB Jewelers, Brian Barentinos.
Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today humble and deeply grateful to receive this recognition from Santa Maria Valley Chamber This recognition reaffirms my commitment to excellence and collaboration within our business community. First and foremost, I want to thank God for guiding me on this journey and for blessing me with the strength and opportunity to pursue my passion. I also want to express my heartfelt thanks to my cousin Fernando, representing my family, and to my friends for the unwavering support during the challenging early days of my business. Special thanks to Carla Martinez and the Chamber staff for their guidance and encouragement. I also want to extend a special appreciation to another Fernando Delgadillo, who not only provided me with invaluable guidance, but did so generously, despite being my competitor. His support has been instrumental in my journey, and I'm truly thankful for his wisdom and encouragement. Thank you to the City of Santa Maria and the Santa Maria Valley Chamber for this recognition. Thank you.
And again, our second recognition is for JB Jewelers and Brian Barantino.
I know a little bit about this place, and if you want to see one of his custom pieces of jewelry, you can contact me after.
We would like to say thank you for this recognition. We have been working really hard since 2009. We always like to improve our store. We're not your average jewelry store. We do custom jewelry repairs, and he does a lot of great work. So we'd like to invite you guys to come take a look at our shop. We're located next to Big Five, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Need interpreter. Interpreter.
Madam Mayor.
Bueno, quiero decir gracias a todos a ustedes, a la ciudad, por esta hermosa invitación que nos hacen. Para mí es un privilegio, un placer. Y doy gracias a Dios por este hermoso certificado. En verdad, trabajamos duro para dar un mejor servicio a toda la costa central y estoy agradecido con todos ustedes y ustedes de una vez más, hermoso privilegio que nos dan. Muchas gracias. Que Dios los bendiga a todos.
Gracias. Gracias, señor.
Madam Mayor,
Cordero.
I just want to say that I've been buying jewelry from this gentleman for 30 years, and my wife has quite an investment of his products, and they've always treated me very, very well, and I'm very pleased with every single item that we have acquired from them, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Cordero. Next item on the agenda is item 10A, presentations, the Master Plan for Aging and Livability Index. And Margaret Weiss from the Project Coordinator for Santa Barbara County Master Plan for Aging will be making the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Patino, council, staff. I'm very pleased to be here to tell you a little bit about this program. And before I dive in, I want to just point out a couple of our members in the audience. Laura, are you here? I didn't see you come in. Okay, Laura may have not made it here yet, but let me point out Midge Nicosia. Midge lives here in Santa Maria, works here in Santa Maria with Community Partners for Caring, which provides services to older adults and people with disabilities. We were lucky to get Midge in our area. She came with many, many years of experience working with older adults in another county. And now we have the great good fortune to have her on our area, in our area. And Midge has been part of our Adult and Aging Network, which supports the Master Plan for Aging and has been really actively involved in helping it move forward. So I'm glad to have Midge in the audience. And I will begin telling you just a little bit about the plan. Because this is a countywide initiative and also a statewide initiative, we felt like it was really important for each city within the county to be familiar with it and to understand where we may overlap with some of the city's efforts. So that's what we'll cover tonight. And by the end of the evening, hopefully I will have inspired you to think a little bit about the needs of older adults and what the city is already offering for seniors. You have so many wonderful programs here in Santa Maria. You're really doing a great job, and there's a lot to acknowledge. Okay, so the Master Plan for Aging began in 2021 as a state initiative. And the idea was to create a blueprint for aging really across the lifespan, not something that we just begin thinking about when we turn 65, but really resources for throughout all of our lives. And a couple of things that I think are really key to the master plan is that all of the initiatives in the plan truly benefit people of all ages and abilities. It's not strictly dedicated to older adults and people with disabilities, although those are the primary target audiences. And the other thing that I think is a really important point is that by creating a strategic plan now to address the fact that our society is rapidly aging, this will put us in a good position for funding down the road. And you've seen that with other initiatives. This year, I feel a little silly saying that because everybody knows it has been a really tough budget year. But the information that we get is that there will be funding coming down the pipe over the next decade towards this concern. And so we as a county and the cities within the county, we want to be prepared to take advantage of that strategically. The master plan has 5 bold goals, and I'll talk about these a little bit. And you'll see that they are truly bold, aspirational goals. They are goals that we are certainly not going to accomplish with any one fell swoop. These will be things that we will work towards in baby steps for many, many years. One of the goals is housing for all stages and ages. Another is health reimagined. We have inclusion and equity, which means not isolation. So we don't want to see older adults and disabled people living in an isolated condition. Caregiving that works. We'll talk a little more about caregiving this evening and the critical role that it plays in keeping people in their own home. And affording aging. So again, all of these things are important. We will be making some decisions and gathering some data to guide decision makers like yourselves in terms of the small steps that we can begin moving towards these goals. There are already a number of things in place throughout Santa Barbara County, including here in Santa Maria. When the master plan began, it included the single largest funding source that we have historically seen for older adults. And that included $9.5 billion for programs and services. Many are listed here. So some of the things that were deemed most critical were behavioral and mental health needs, counseling and case management, digital connections, the senior nutrition program, CalAIM, which is done here through our local ZenCal Medi-Cal management program, and an Aging and Disability Resource Center, which is a new concept bringing together our Area Agency on Aging and the Independent Living Resource Center for people with disabilities as a common resource hub and information hub. So part of our strategy is to take these kinds of resources that are already coming into the county and make sure that we are accessing them to the greatest ability possible and getting them out into the community for good use. Just to give you a little bit of the history, kind of how this has come about in Santa Barbara County, we have, as I mentioned, an adult and aging network, which is a collaboration of a wide variety of services that meet the needs of older adults. And that group in 2021, when the Master Plan for Aging was announced, they began to look at the goals and see what could be done locally. So, for example, you will all, I no doubt, remember that we recently completed housing element updates at the county and within every city. And part of the Adult and Aging Network effort was to focus attention on what senior needs were in that housing element. So advocating for universal design in new buildings that allows for ADA accommodation and adaptability in home design so that people can age and make changes in their home in order to be able to stay in place. And then we were fortunate enough in 2023 to be one of the first 15 counties to be funded to create a local plan. So up until that point, we were working off the state plan, and now we have a small pot of money to develop a plan that really can address local needs. We have a fantastic advisory committee. Actually, your Angela Oslin from Recreation is on our advisory committee, and just a great group of people that represent not only all the different sectors that are important for older adults, but also that represent the diversity of the community. And we are about to launch, I will probably send you an announcement later this week, a major community assessment. And that is to gather information about the needs and experiences of local people, so that when we create the plan, it will be based on what local people have experienced here in Santa Maria and throughout the county. And that's one of the asks that I have of you tonight is really, is there a way for us to work closely together to make sure that Santa Maria residents are represented in that community assessment? And I've already been in touch with some of your recreation program leaders. We'll be working through the senior centers to reach many of the folks here in Santa Maria. But at the end of my talk, if there are suggestions of other places we need to be, that's what we would like to do. I am not going to spend a great deal of time going over data because that could be a whole masterclass. We're not going to do that. But I did want to leave you with at least a few key items that I think are very compelling for why we are doing this. And the most compelling fact is the simple fact that 1 in 4 people here in our county will be age 60 or older in the year 2030. So that is coming up very, very quickly, as you know. And then just to know a little bit about that group of people and what that's going to look like. That group is actually diversifying more rapidly than any other age group. So we'll see, the vibrancy of diversity, but also some of the issues that are concerns for people. And also over the age of 60, we know that 1 in 3 people will struggle with poverty. 1 in 3 live with a disability, perhaps a disability that they've had for many, many years, or perhaps a disability that has come with aging. 1 in 5 have a chance of developing dementia. 7 in 10 will need help at home or may need a facility to help care for their needs. And this is one of the areas where we are sorely lacking. We, at this point in time, do not have enough workers in that field to provide that need. And I don't have to tell this committee about the challenges of housing, the expense, and how difficult it is to find appropriate available housing. Those are some of the things that the Master Plan for Aging needs to address in order to be successful. But the data also can be a little overwhelming, and so I don't want to leave that subject without at least introducing one possible solution. Communities across the country are trying different strategies, and one of the strategies that has had some success is what's called an age-friendly community, a community that is designed to meet the needs of older adults and people with disabilities. So things like what you see on the screen here, walkable neighborhoods, transportation options for those who aren't using their cars, access to quality services near home, opportunities to engage in community activities to stay connected with other people and involved in stimulating things to do, and housing that's affordable and adaptable. And the thing that impresses me most about this list is these are consistently, when you survey seniors, the things that they say they want and need to be able to age in place. But it turns out that these are also the things that people in other age groups want. We all have a whole lot more in common than we do have differences. So these are also things that are very beneficial to families. And the one example that I hear given often in this concern is curb ramps. So many of you will know that curb ramps came around as a way to address veterans who were coming home with a new disability. And curb ramps were meant to make it easier for people to get around their community. Turns out that that is also really helpful when you're pushing a stroller or when you're aging and your knees are a little achy and sore. It benefits a much wider audience. And so that's very helpful. I am going to kind of breeze through these next couple of slides because we have a short time tonight. But there is a program called the AARP, American Association for Retired Persons, Age-Friendly Communities. And some of our cities are choosing to work with that program to become designated as age-friendly communities. So I think you as the local decision makers for Santa Maria need to know that that's an option. It's an option that we can help with to some extent while we're working on the master plan. And if that's something you'd like to know more about, we can have further conversation on that. But essentially, the AARP program is a free program. It's a program where communities choose their own action items that pertain to what is important in that community. And they don't have to be grand, expensive items. It's often very small steps that make sense for that community. And the advantage is, in addition to getting the designation, AARP has a huge wealth of resources and expertise to assist in that. So that's something to think about and something we can circle back to in the future if that's of interest here. This gives you just an overview of how the AARP program works over time. I'm going to kind of breeze through these because we won't be going into detail on that tonight. But the one thing I did want to share with you, you have in your packet the Santa Maria Livability Index. AARP does a very thorough, complete report on every community in the nation. And they rank our communities based on nationwide data. It can be policy data, it can be specific criteria. There's 61 different measures that they rank a community on. And don't think this is a bad score. Santa Maria's overall score is 53. That's actually a good score. Your elementary school teachers might not have thought of it that way, but this is based on the national median of 47. So Santa Maria is above the median, and that's where you want to be. Nobody gets 100 on this particular score because you have these 7 topic areas from housing to opportunity. No community is going to do 100% in all 7 areas. And in fact, I doubt very seriously that there's a community that does 100% in even one topic area. This is really a continuum. The community with the highest score has a score of 75, so there's room to grow. But I say that as a way of showing that 100% is not what we're aiming for here. This is just a continuum. And in that report that you have in your packet, you'll get details on each of these 7 areas. You can see that here in Santa Maria, and frankly throughout our county, health is an area where we do very, very well. And again, this is compared nationally. Transportation is another area where Santa Maria does particularly well, I think better than most of the other communities in our county. So you've got this report with all its details in your packet, and I would encourage you to look at it. The data is really interesting, and it's beneficial when you're doing things like grant writing, but it also will give you just a thumbnail sketch of your community. And if you really like data and you want to know more about this, looking at the report online at livabilityindex.aarp.org is actually a better way to view it because you can click on each of those topic areas and see exactly how they came up with the score for your community. That is it. That is the 30,000-foot level view of the Master Plan for Aging. And as I say, I'm happy to take any comments or questions that you may have. If you have suggestions for where we need to be in Santa Maria collecting information for the community assessment, or if you'd like to contact me afterwards to learn a little bit more about AARP or any of these components, I'm happy to have your call.
Any questions? Ms. Soto?
Thank you for today's presentation. It was very informative, and for the work that you are doing with all of the other nonprofits and community groups and local jurisdictions on this very important work. there was a slide where you outlined the goals, and it stated that the goals were housing, health, inclusion, and equity. And what were the other two?
Let me see if I can go back to that slide for you. There we go. So housing, health, inclusion, caregiving, and affordability. Those are the 5 major goal areas. And know that within each one of those goal areas, there are multiple strategies and initiatives. It's a very deep and detailed report.
Yeah, I mean, I know with caregiving, that is definitely an area in our social infrastructure that we're really lacking, not just in Santa Barbara County, but really throughout the nation, whether it's childcare or care for elderly family members. And so over the next couple of years, as affordability becomes much more challenging, and given what we see in caregiving, for instance, through IHSS workers, how do you see that balance? Because it's you can't live off of IHSS.
You're absolutely right. And for anyone who maybe isn't familiar with IHSS, that is In-Home Supportive Services, and it's a program that's done through our county Department of Social Services for people who must have help to stay at home, help with their daily activities and even with health concerns, but where they may not have enough dollars to pay for that and need some assistance to be able to have it. And it is beneficial to all of us financially for them to get that care in their home versus being forced to go to a skilled nursing facility. So they're happier, and it's financially to everyone's benefit to do it that way. But our in-home supportive services workers are not really getting paid a living wage. So you point out really a critical issue in this whole concern. In other parts of the state, there are places that are trying to begin to address this. And I've seen kind of 2 prongs to that. One is to make more people aware of it as a career path. So we're starting to see, for example, high schools who might have an academy that is training people to become certified nurse assistants, which we all know it may not be the best paying job in the long term, but it's a pretty good start for somebody coming out of high school if they have some training in the right skill set. So that's one prong, is just making more people aware of and interested in the career. And then with the pay side of the equation, that's something that IHSS is striving to increase. And we're starting to see other avenues to increase the pay. For example, with one of the programs that's getting some funding right now is CalAIM. And CalAIM here in our county through CenCal can help people pay for services in their home that we don't always think of as health insurance. CalAIM or CenCal is their health insurance, but it's really hard to take good care of your health if you're at risk of losing your housing or you're at risk of losing your caregiver. And so that program has been given extra funding to look at people with the most complex needs and provide those additional supports. But again, it is still an issue. It's a big concern, and we're making baby steps of progress towards addressing it for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for the presentation. And I was talking to Mr. Posada about this the other day. A lot of times people don't know what the needs are because you don't know what stages you would maybe have to do caregiving for a parent or something. And so, but you never know. I had a friend that was out watering the lawn and tripped over the hose and had to have her hip done and needed care in her home. So, you know, in just a blink of an eye, all those stages can really, really determine what kind of care you have to have. But thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
Well,
how
thank you for your
important-
time.
How
I appreciate
important
it.
isolation, because we don't realize some people self-isolate and they need that interaction out there.
We all need
So-
that connection, don't we?
Yeah. But thank you very much. And I have Midge Nicosia would like to speak.
Thank you, Margaret, for presenting about the master plan. I'm here in support of Margaret and the Master Plan on Aging, as well as Community Partners in Caring, who is a nonprofit in your community. We've been around for 27 years supporting seniors in this community with free services, and that's part of why I'm here. We collaborate and participate in the master plan, as well as the Area Agency on Network, to make sure that our seniors are taken care of in this community as well as throughout Santa Barbara County. I used to live here in the 80s, the early 80s, and I saw when the Miller was not condos or housing, it was farmland, and so I went to Hancock and left and had a life and came back in 2022. Came right back into senior services because I knew of Community Partners in Caring who had helped my own mother who lived here when my father passed away and she didn't drive. Community Partners in Caring helped her get to her doctor, to do her shopping, to things that she didn't want to burden her neighbor with too much, even though she had great neighbors in her community. Community Partners in Caring is that helping neighbor, actually. We match volunteers up with community seniors and those with light disabilities that no longer drive. I know you're probably tired of talking about seniors and aging, but every single one of you in this room, if you are lucky, are becoming a senior, are going to become a senior if you haven't already. I just turned 60. Yeah, you just start thinking about that. You know, you may not be thinking about it right now, and it may not be right on the front of your plate, but you may have taken care of an elder, your parents. I did. I took care of my mom for 5 years before she passed away. There are needs that you don't think about until they exist. Mm-hmm. One of them is transportation. Imagine not having the ability to go into your garage, start your car, and go off to the grocery store to get what you need, or to go to the doctor. Well, our clients have that fear every day. How am I going to accomplish this? Because they are limited in their mobility because they no longer drive. They also have that same issue with being stuck at home and not having that connectivity, which can definitely cause depression and problems further in health issues. I'm here just to tell you that Community Partners in Caring helps provide a solution for that. With your help, we sign volunteers up and match them to their own community members to make that connectivity happen. Community Partners in Caring is collaborating with Hancock College next year. On March 14th, we'll be having the first senior community expo since, I was told, the early 90s in this area. So hopefully all of you will participate that, be active. We're going to have a lot of vendors and providers there to tell you what's what in your community about senior services. I don't want to take up much more time, but that's what I'm here for, to make sure you know that seniors in your community need your help. And even knock on your neighbor's door and see if they might need you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next presentation. The next presentation is the update on City Hall's landscape project, and Recreation and Parks Director Angela Oslin will be making the presentation along with Scott Christian.
Hello, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Today I'm going to talk about a very short update on the landscape renovation at City Hall. Just a quick background, this landscape project has been underway for quite a while. City crews have been working alongside contractors to prepare the site, install new features, and update the plantings. I'm sure you've seen quite a bit going on back there. A little bit on the project. This is a WaterWise project. It was developed to align with the governor's executive order to address the drought emergency in 2022 and to align with the State Water Resources Control Board's Title 23 regulations. The project overall removes what is termed non-functional turf. This is ornamental turf. It's not used for specific recreation purposes, and it replaces it with functional, lower water usage educational gardens. So this is an overall picture of what the original concept design looked like. The project at City Hall and the library area, it covers Broadway, Cook, and McClellan. This is where the city could locate a public art piece, a new plaza space, and educational features. And so when the project evolved, as you can see here, it has evolved into a number of types of garden themes. So they include some low water use streetscapes, some low water use gardens, formal gardens, some lawn alternatives, a Mediterranean area, a shade area, a succulent garden, and California native plantings. Phase 1 of the overall project runs along Broadway. So you've seen this going on for many months. It includes the removal of the concrete walkways, turf grass, 2 magnolia trees, and signage. The new design includes a public event space, which you can see here. It's kind of that gray area in front of the old library building where the mural is. And it also includes some electrical so that we can have city events there, such as the tree lighting ceremony. So there's been a number of questions about the trees that were removed on this part of the project. The trees were inspected by the city arborist, Scott Christian, and they were deemed to be at the end of their life. Some signs of the end of life in a tree is splitting or disease, as you can see here. This particular tree, in the next slide I'll show you, was at the end of its life, told by the inability to withhold its own weight. So you can kind of see here that there was some cabling that was holding it together. We removed the cabling, and the branches of the tree just kind of split off. So what you see here now is the city crews cutting down the remainder of the tree and processing it and putting it through the chipper. So other components of the project include the pavers over here, which we had talked about a minute ago. New signage, which is on the right-hand picture, and that will have a City Hall lettering. And then also some new plantings in the courtyard you've probably seen between the City Hall building and the old library building. And then the mural, which has gone up earlier this year. So it's kind of a short project overview. The timeline right now is looking like the front area will be completed here in the next couple of months, and then we'll continue to move around the remainder of City Hall, start working along this side, and then move to the back of the parking area. And with that, if you have any questions, Scott or I are able to answer. Yes?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The City Hall lettering that's going to go on that one there, is that going to be just, we call a sign person in and they do the lettering, or is there going to be a competition, if you will, for young people to participate?
We have a design already in play, and so that will be coming in the months, coming months, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments? Well, I'll tell you, the 2 things I get calls on are potholes and anyone removing a tree.
Yeah.
Okay?
I do too.
And it's usually the same people that call me. So it's good to know people, we have watchful eyes out there. And it's important to know, I think we plant, 500, 600 trees a year, don't we?
Yeah.
Isn't that about it?
Yeah.
So we're out there planting trees that may not seem like it. Yeah.
So I want to thank Scott for taking care of our trees. I did get a lot of calls. People were complaining, why did you guys take down the trees?
Yeah.
Those beautiful trees. I said they were diseased, we need to take them down. But, I know that we wouldn't have taken them down unless something was wrong with them, so.
Yeah. Can you put the slide back up here, please?
It's never an easy decision to be taking trees out.
Right.
It's not really the happy part of my job. These trees have had a good life, and in an urban situation, we have to be a little harsher. We can't have a tree that might fall over any day, and that big beautiful tree in the center, it
Go back.
it started to fall apart as we were cutting it down.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The next order of business is public comment. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 6 people to speak at public comment, and public comment is 3 minutes, Madam Clerk. Thank you. April Huckabee, followed by James. Help me here, James. B-A-R-T. Okay, well, you'll know when I call you. Andy Davis and Donna Pulling. Good evening.
Hi there. Good evening. My name is April Sargent Huckabee, and I come before you today as a local business owner and an active community member. I run a program called Neurofighters, which is an exercise program for those living with neurological conditions like Parkinson's and strokes. We have our classes at Marion's Health and Wellness Center located at 1207 East Main. I've put a map. I give a map to your clerk. In addition to my classes being held at Marion Health and Wellness Center, which is just a small portion of what the services are offered there, they have patients of all ages that receive physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and they are home to the Cardiac and Pulmonary Rehab Center and Cancer Care and Recovery classes for our town. This is a very busy medical facility for our community. Recently, there has been some construction and changes to the entrance of the Wellness Center because of the new building of a Starbucks that has a double-lane drive-through that has been put in the Home Motors parking lot. As a result of this, there is now one entrance from Main Street for Home Motors, this new Starbucks, and the Wellness Center. In addition to this being the only entrance, there is parking along the entrance of Home Motors. This has created much confusion, proving to have some issues well before the opening of this Starbucks, which I'm sure will be very busy. Turning left into this driveway is often blocked by traffic or hard to get access because of the speed of the vehicles coming down Main. This is essentially true when Pioneer Valley gets out of school each day. This is a single point of entry for these 3 businesses. Once in the driveway, there are 2 lanes for traffic, are very narrow, and turning points that have been designed are too narrow for 2 cars to pass. Approximately 3 weeks ago, I suffered a medical emergency. I was working at coaching my classes at the Wellness, while I was working at coaching my classes. 911 emergency services needed to be called to address my issue. The aid car and fire truck had difficulty navigating this new entrance and had trouble maneuvering in the parking lot to get back to the Wellness Center. Thankfully, my medical emergency was not life-threatening, but what if it had been? What is going to happen when and if these fire trucks and aid cars cannot turn left across the 2 lanes to get into the driveway because it is blocked by cars or blocked by the new Starbucks that is backed up? I come to you today to put in a formal request that the city take a serious look at this situation and the configurement of this driveway. This is not the first time, nor will it be the last time, that aid and fire will need to be carted to this facility. At a minimum, I would like to request that a keep clear be put down on Main Street in front of this driveway. It is imperative that turning left be kept an open possibility at all times, not only for the patients that attend this medical facility, but for fire, aid, and police if needed. I am happy to talk to anybody in the city about this. If I need to go to another department, I'd love to hear from somebody. I have asked in the past and been denied, but this is now more of a critical issue because you have one entrance for 3 very busy establishments. Also, I'm just going to ask, since I'm here and I have your attention, a signal at Concord and Main would be amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fulgoni is writing that down, and he will be in contact with you, April.
Okay, I put my number. I gave her my phone number.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and expressing that. I have made comments about Maine and certain times of the day, in particular 5 o'clock. Maine also backs up the freeway, so it is a big issue. So we do need to look at that.
You're not going anywhere.
For 15 minutes, I know.
Thank you. James, B-A-R. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Go Dodgers.
Welcome aboard. My name is James Bartlett. I've lived here in Santa Maria for roughly 62 years. And I'll probably be short and sweet, but it's constantly been getting worse as far as, I'm sure you folks has heard this complaint before about our streets, that cars is no tags, don't even have a motor in it, and not even running for sure. And it's just getting worse and worse. Just down my street alone, within 2 blocks, there's at least anywhere from 10 to 15 cars that's no tags, and they're parked out on the street. And I was just curious if, I'm sure that, like I say again, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about it to all you folks, but it's a issue that's got worse the years that I've been there, and it's terrible, you know.
I will turn this over to our police department and let them check that out. I understand that's happening on a lot of our streets.
I sure appreciate it, and I don't know if you remember me or not, but I coached your
certainly
son,
do.
John, about 45 years ago on the West Side Little League.
I remember. I just didn't recognize you with your ball cap on.
All righty, that's all I have to say.
Okay.
And anything you folks can do, we'll appreciate it.
Thank you very
Have
much
a great
for being
evening.
here.
Go
Good to see you again,
Dodgers.
Alice.
Thank you.
I like your cap.
Andy Davis.
Good evening, Councilmember and Madam Mayor.
Good evening.
I was here about a month ago regarding a violation for my driveway being too wide. And you set up a meeting with the planning department, and they were super congenial and super kind. However, the only resolve was to do what they call Hollywood parking. And it's super labor intensive and requires quite a bit of effort. And there's like 10 of us in the neighborhood that are in with the violations. And we're just asking if we could have some exemption or something. I just can't wrap my head around 25 years later, someone coming and knocking on my door, and I have to tear up my driveway. We can't park on the streets. Parking's an issue. There are people moved in, bought the homes with the driveways already like that. It's all an innocent violation, and if you could explain to me the true concern on having the driveway too big, I'd appreciate that. But if we could just ask for an exemption and be left alone.
I understand the request because we're seeing too many cars. They have to park on the street because there's no place for them to park. And if there's an ADU added to that residence, then they're parked out on the streets.
We can't park on our street either.
Yeah, I know.
In
I know
our
where you
narrows,
are.
we're in a community, and our lots are already narrow, so to have a driveway half the size of your property doesn't mean much. And so I just don't understand the real threat, concern, or harm what we're doing.
So, Ms. Edie, do you think we can take a look at this and maybe make some adjustment to the area there?
They told us that the only thing we could do is file for an application for change, because we was like, well, maybe it's time to change. And it's like $6,900 just for the application. And then the request would have to be minimal at best to get the change. So it wouldn't really address our concern. We just want some.
Okay. I think that's.
We're not trying to be a pain in the backside. Okay.
I think that's
Okay.
very reasonable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Donna Pulling, followed by Peggy Brierton.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm here to talk about 4th of July fireworks. On the 5th of July, I posted a notice to the city manager, and it was responded to on July 12th, saying that the issue had been resolved. So I do want to thank everyone at the city manager's office for taking care of the fireworks problem this year so quickly. Unfortunately, I don't think that is the case. The fireworks this year were just outrageously offensive, and I've talked to people in my neighborhood, on social media. There have been posts all over social media complaining about it was a war zone. They went on for a week. And I understand there is an ordinance in place that violators setting off illegal fireworks are to be fined $1,000. That would probably really benefit the city to be collecting those fines. So I am just bringing this to your attention. I'm wondering if there were any other complaints that were issued to the city manager's office, and that if this complaint is really resolved, what the resolution is for that problem. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Posada, I'll give you the fireworks issue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You are welcome.
Members of the City Council and our speakers tonight, thanks. So we do have an action plan that we reviewed with the council prior to the 4th of July. We try to make every effort to provide public education about it. Police and fire spend an enormous amount of overtime on enforcement during those firework periods. I understand from Chief Dandridge that we had over 60 violations, citations issued. So that's an increase over last year's. I believe we were in the 50s last year. And it is a problem. Certainly no one's saying that it isn't a problem. The effort by both police and fire is pretty amazing given the community that we have. I mean, they're just fireworks everywhere. So I appreciate the concerns. We'll continue to beef up enforcement, do what we can during the 4th of July period. And I don't know if Chief Dandridge wants to add anything to that, but I know his crews were actively out there seeking these fireworks violations.
Thank you. Chief Dandridge, would you like to make any comments?
Madam Mayor, City Council, I just wanted to add a couple of things. As stated before, our firefighters are ready to respond to emergencies every day of the year. On the 4th of July, we responded to 57 total responses. 24 of those were medical aids, 4 of them were no hazards, no fires, meaning power lines down. We had 11 good intent calls, meaning canceled en route. But most importantly, we had 15 fire calls.
15.
One building fire. That one building fire was our crews requested in San Luis County for mutual aid. We also had 4 outside trash or rubbish fires that we responded to, 2 grass fires, and 6 dumpster fires. So in the illegal firework activities, we didn't have any structural fires here within the city. We did respond to grass fires, dumpster fires. In regards to the enforcement, this year, we teamed with Santa Maria Police Department in unmarked vehicles, and there was 57 administrative citations that are going to be for review for the city attorney's office. And then there were additional 7 from Santa Maria Police Department in the days preceding the 4th of July. So that was a total of 65 citations for review for the city attorney's office. In regards to our prevention department, they were the ones that stepped up to provide that enforcement on the 4th of July. So I thank our troops for taking the time away from families to do that. And if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Thank you. Any questions? Ms. Soto?
Thank you. You mentioned the citations that were issued after 4th of July. I just heard fireworks last night at home, and so how does that enforcement look like weeks after 4th of July?
It's an excellent question, Councilmember Soto. So with us, with the fire department, we're there and we're tasked with responding to any emergencies. So I would defer that to our police chief, but during the day of the 4th of July, we actually collaborate with police. We actually have an aerial craft that we have contracted with to patrol the skies on the 4th of July to be able to cite any illegal firework activity. That, along with the teamwork with PD, is the scope of our involvement from the fire department. The other issues before the 4th and after the 4th would be, I would leave to our police chief and code enforcement to answer.
When the drone, is that what it is, the drone?
It's an aerial craft.
The aerial craft
Yes, ma'am.
detects an illegal firework?
I'm sorry?
When the thing in the air,
The aerial drone.
the aerial drone
Yes.
thing detects a firework, an illegal firework, do crews go out to that residence immediately, or do they just send a citation afterwards?
What happens is the aerial craft that we have has military grade identification abilities. So what they do is they detect and they pinpoint addresses specific and have the capabilities to zoom in to see exactly where these illegal fire activity is coming from. And then from there, we actually just issue citations. We do not send troops out there. One of the concerns that I had is sending a crew of 3 firefighters into a potentially hostile crowd. We look for the safety of our firefighters, and we want to ensure their safety first and foremost. So that's why I said we were fortunate enough to be able to team up with police this year with our prevention, and our firefighters assigned to the stations were able to respond and provide service for the other emergencies that were called.
Did PD go out to those residents then, on their day?
I would defer to the
Thank you.
chief on that, if I may.
Chief Snyder, would you like to comment on that?
Any further questions for me? Thank you.
Good evening. What we did is collected all the information, sort of similar to what the fire chief was saying, and then we're forwarding them over to code enforcement for the follow-up citations and prosecutions. And much to what the chief said, we try to limit having going into, especially on the 4th and leading up to when they're having big block parties. Last thing we want to do is send in officers and there's a confrontation over fireworks. And oftentimes we don't know who is lighting them off. We get that information after the fact from the aircraft, and then we follow up with the parcel numbers through code enforcement and partner that way. Leading up to or after, as you indicated, calls for service will come in. We don't have anybody specifically working fireworks details now, but our patrol officers would respond to the area. If they can witness where it's coming from, they would make contact. If it's fireworks heard, they show up, they sit there as long as they can, and if nothing goes off, they may just leave the area after being there for some time. If they can see it coming from a specific yard, they would make contact, and if they can cite, they will. If they can confiscate, they would also. But it's very challenging, as you know from years past, just finding out who's actually lighting them and taking action. Oftentimes you show up and things are on the ground, and if you didn't witness it and there's not a third party that wants to come forward, it makes it difficult for enforcement.
So I have a question. So that when the drones were indicating a parcel number that was there, then you forwarded that to the city attorney's office, and then you find out who it was?
No, it's actually the fire department. I think the information comes through the fire department and then it goes to code enforcement for review. And if the information is of the quality that they can identify the parcel and the person who is doing it, then they will follow up with the citation.
Okay, got it.
Thank you. Mr. Cordero, do you have?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had kind of was waiting until I reported out to mention this, but since we're knee-deep in this conversation, I have to say that it was, as a council person, it was embarrassing. It was just embarrassing that we, all of us, including the police and fire, have lost control of the community, and there was so much activity. I happened to be in communication with the retired police chief during that night, and some of our texts were not kindly to the situation. I hadn't really intended on saying it quite like this, but I'm going to go ahead. To me, the 65 citations, I think it's great. I think that the men and women that worked on that, it should be applauded, and we thank them for doing what they did. But if you know anything about fishing, it's kind of like fishing at a trout farm. You're pretty much sure you're going to catch them. This went on for hours and hours and hours until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And there was not a 20-second period of time or 10-second period of time where one of these huge explosions was not going off. And you're a bad neighbor to do that. You are a terrible neighbor. You're an inconsiderate neighbor. You're not cared for the animals that this drives crazy. You're not concerned for the men and women that have PTSD. You are a bad neighbor. And I wish the controlling people would take control of the people that are setting these things off. This is rude. And I hope that we can do something to better address this problem. And it may be just education. It may be all we can do is education. This has nothing to do with the fine work the fire department and the police department do. I'm very confident in their abilities. But when I say I was embarrassed, I want you to know that I was. I was embarrassed, and I've spoken to people in this chambers right now about how embarrassed I was. So I don't really know what to do other than to ask and plead for cooperation from these people, but it's just unconscionable that our members of our citizens and our community members are doing things like this with no concern for what they're doing wrong. And I guess I don't have to say it now at the closing. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Thank you. Yes.
May
Ms.
I, given that this is a topic that we're all very interested, would we be able to agendize this for discussion at another meeting?
Certainly.
To not only get the data on the citations, but also talk about possible policies, recommendations that our city attorney's office could recommend that other cities do.
That would be fine. I know that about 5 years ago, I think we had a committee of residents who came together and helped us put some policy together. So, okay, thank you, Mr. Posada. You can have that one too. Peggy Brierton. Thank you for your patience.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor Patino and Council. I'm going to stick with the fire department here. And I've heard that negotiations are still not going on, or are they? So I'm going to ask you if you could please re-enter into negotiations with the fire department. It's been dragging on way too long. It puts the residents at danger, the city's not safe, and it's not fair to our firemen. So please get back onto the negotiations. I would also respectfully ask that pay increases that you have for city staff or upcoming pay increases, anything that you can do to just put a hold on that too, just shelf it for a little bit, and don't give those increases until we figure out how to pay our firemen a fair wage. And look what they did for 4th of July. I mean, they go out all the time for us, day in, day out. And they deserve negotiations. Back to the table, please. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney, Mr. Watson, we cannot comment on that. Is that correct?
No, ma'am, you cannot.
Okay, thank you. Gary Hall. Good evening, Mr. Hall.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, staff, and citizens of Santa Maria. My name is Gary Hall. I'm a resident of Rancho Buena Vista Mobile Estates at 2135 North Railroad Avenue here in Santa Maria. I represent the North Santa Barbara County Manufactured Homeowners Team, or NSBIT. Our NSBIT goal remains to provide protection to all Santa Maria mobile home residents presently living in an unregulated rental market where the current model lease program has been ineffective in protecting homeowner equity and maintaining affordable mobile home housing. We believe Council Members Soto, Escobedo, and Cordero recognized the ineffectiveness of the model lease on June 6, 2022, when they passed a motion that reads, and I'll quote, "To examine the model lease agreement, looking for ways to improve it, and to look at alternatives." Thank you for that motion. Now, 2 years later, and thanks to Assistant City Manager Wu, we at least have a draft outreach plan, and we are working on its implementation. We believe the outreach goal should be to engage all homeowners in all mobile home parks and make them aware of the existence of the model lease, to inform them and educate them about their lease options, and notify them where they can continue to get reliable information. We, the mobile home residents, are committed to continue good faith efforts to now meet the outreach goal and the overarching NSBIT goal I stated earlier. We are ready and willing to work with the city to achieve those goals with or without the participation of the park owners. Let me remind you again, over 100 other California jurisdictions have enacted effective rent stabilization ordinances and programs that have provided their mobile home park residents with the protection we seek. We continue to ask the city of Santa Maria to do the same. We hoped that the model lease would bring us that protection, but it has not. An alternative, as mentioned in the June 22, 2022 motion, may be required. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Okay, at this time, I had pulled, by the request of staff, I had pulled 14B, which is the adoption of a resolution approving a sales and disposition agreement between the City of Santa Maria and Vernon property. And this has been pulled because it's not complete. But I see Mr. Vernon is here tonight. I didn't know if you would like to make any comments, but this has been going on for quite some time. I would certainly like to see this come to a resolution, at least within the next couple of weeks. It just seemed like it was yesterday when we were in a meeting, and so it was just like, hurry up and let's get this to the council because we need to decide this. So, Mr. Vernon and Mr. Wu, I would like to have a date so we can get this resolved, because we need to get the downtown looking like we want it to look, basically. Did you want to make a comment, Mr. Vernon?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor and Council. Appreciate being here tonight. I know it's been a long process, and we are very anxious to get it going forward. Just briefly where we're at, we have 2 of the projects that are currently in plan check for building permits. So we're moving forward quickly. And one of the huge concerns that we have is that as we redo the Fallas building, we want to quickly be following behind that with the additional buildings that are on the Lot 1 property, so that we are not creating an island of residential. It doesn't have any commercial component in it. The main commercial component is in the other pieces. So it's really important for us to get that going as soon as possible. With that said, talking to staff, I am in agreement that we don't need the 2 steps. Tonight it was directing to complete negotiations. I believe that we are very close on that, and we can come back on August 20th. If we are able to get the red line draft back from the city within the next week, we'll be able to respond to it within a week and we can easily meet the August 6th deadline to be on the agenda for August 20th. And my big ask would be
Okay.
that we're bringing something forward to vote on at that time.
Okay, that's fine. Mr. Cordero?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to join with you, Madam Mayor, and suggest that we need to bring this to a resolution, not a proclamation resolution kind of thing, but to an ending as soon as possible. It's long overdue. And I learned as late as today that the wife of Alvin Newton is not in great health, and I believe it's the oldest surviving fireman that was at the scene when Alvin lost his life at the Bradley Hotel over 50 years ago. And he now has been diagnosed and has about 6 months to a year to live. And one of the things that he told me here was that he wanted to see this thing completed before he died, which is doubtful if this doctor's assessment is legitimate. So I would really hope that we can see this thing come to resolution very, very quickly so that we can at least get it going. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vernon. I have two people that like to speak on this, even though it's pulling at Mr. Glenn Morris. And would you like to speak to this, Mr. Morris? Okay. Mr. Cocello, you can speak tonight or you can come back.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tony Cocello is my name. I came here, first of all, I want to thank the city. I own a warehouse over here for the last 22 years. Had a lot of problems lately. When I had it, first got it, no problem. But it's in behind the railroad tracks, behind the old Knutson plant. And the homeless started to come. And I tried to work with them, and it didn't work. It didn't happen. And I'm here to thank some people. I want to thank the chief for his staff. I want to thank Don Palacios. I sent letters for their files. I'm a former highway patrolman, and I got a lot of bad letters. But once in a while, I got a good one. So I don't know if Don's here, but anyway, I want to thank her, and I want you guys to know you got some great people. Rafael Torres, okay, ran that Air Force pickup up and down. And the city came in and stepped up, and we took out you took out 62,000 pounds from front of my building all the way around, and you paid for it. Santa Maria, you paid for it, and I want to thank you for that. Since then, it really didn't stop the situation. So I also want to thank Fire Inspector John Mata, Fire Department, for responding to fires against my building. It's back in there where you can't see it. They were building fires, taking it all the way to the top of the roof. My wife's not here, but I burned her house down 5 years ago. I didn't want to burn my warehouse down. And they've responded. So I'm here to thank those people. But how did we solve the problem? ABC Supply and me have installed an electric fence. It's made by Amarak. It works. It works. 10,000 volts, and they will take care of you. If there's anybody listening, come by and see me, because my warehouse is clean. You folks come by and you take care of it. I want to thank you for that. Now, my last question. Why am I here? Well, I don't know. I might come back. But I read in there something about surplus land, or I think that's what these guys are talking about. Can somebody tell me, or should I not ask, what is surplus land?
Mr. Watson, do you want to give them the definition? Oh, Mr. Wu? Okay.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, surplus land is land that the city declares to be surplus. Usually it's land that's already public property or belongs to the city and may not have any use that's beneficial for current operations. And so in regards to the project that the city's working on with Vernon Construction Group, there were 4 parcels that were declared surplus and identified for redevelopment in downtown.
Okay, so it actually is owned by the city, the land?
Correct.
Okay, because I have a concern about that. I had some land behind me. I said, I got it turned down twice. They wanted to change it from industrial to residential. Finally, a guy came in here and the city council voted me out of that. I now have residential right up against my warehouse with the railroad track coming around. I knew once I saw the tentative map proposed, there's no way that they can do what they wanted to do on that land. So,
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Cocello, for being here tonight.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this is Mr. Wu and Mr. Vernon. This is going to get handled, and they'll be back on the next agenda. Great. So at this time, I'm going to move 14A up, and we're going to get a status update on the encampment response efforts. This presentation is being made by Assistant City Manager Chun Wu, along with Homelessness Assistant Program Manager Kimberly Albers, and County of Santa Barbara Deputy Director for Housing and Community Development, Joe Zonick. Okay. So now we're all back on schedule.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. We have a lot of representatives here for a topic that's very relevant, very current, complex. And I just want to recognize their attendance here. We have a city staff that works on this issue of homelessness and encampment and response. We have certainly from police, our police chief, but also Sergeant Diaz. We have with the Rangers, Sergeant Ramirez. We have with code enforcement, our code enforcement manager, Don Palacios. It's certainly a joint effort. We have from Santa Barbara County, Joe Zvonek, and we had Kimberly Albers, but Lucille Boss is here in place of Kimberly. But we also have representatives from Good Samaritan, Sylvia and Kirsten, and Fighting Back, Edwin and Tara. Also, I believe we also have a representative from SLO County. Is that correct? Linda? All right, thank you for coming. So I think we have these people here to either answer questions on a topic that is broad, that's complex, and I think the goal for this evening is to really paint as accurate of a picture of what's happening in our community. And you know, this is complex because you can look at it from various perspectives. There's the perspective of those that are experiencing homelessness, but there's also the perspective of those that are in our community, those that are living here, businesses, and what we consider community impacts. And so because there's a lot of different ways to look at this, there's also a lot of different opinions about it. You can ask anyone in our community about the topic of homelessness, and you'll likely hear a lot. But it's important to understand how we're approaching this and all the resources that are going into this effort. So I'm going to provide a quick kind of 5-minute perspective from what the city has been doing, and I'll turn a lot of the time over to Santa Barbara County staff. The homelessness and encampments, from a city perspective, it's primarily in regards to enforcement. And so this is enforcement within our city boundaries. We clarified that the work within the Santa Maria Riverbed is primarily in the boundaries of San Luis Obispo County, but it is multi-jurisdictional. There are properties that, there are many property owners, and there are boundaries that weave in and out of the two counties. Even though the city's perspective is primarily in regards to enforcement, we know that this issue cannot be sufficiently addressed unless we also talk about housing and services. And so our Santa Barbara County representatives will get more into that. We also recognize the recent Supreme Court ruling in regards to the city of Grants Pass. And what that does is that ruling basically determined that cities can enforce anti-camping ordinances. Previously, we were working under this context of Martin versus Boise, in which jurisdictions didn't have the ability to enforce an anti-camping ordinance if there were not available beds to serve the unsheltered. We don't know exactly what this all means for cities. I think there are some discussions that we will have internally and with our partner jurisdictions and with our agencies. Certainly, we can think of the idea that there's a greater ability to enforce, but on the other hand, there are challenges to simply asking people to leave if there's nowhere to go. And for something that is resource intensive, we would have to think about how we allocate resources to an issue if they would simply be relocated to another location and, create a similar concern elsewhere. Those that are involved in enforcement are Community Service Unit. Sergeant Diaz leads that unit. We have community service officers or beat coordinators that do patrol. And they really go after our hotspots. They post notices. They coordinate cleanup. And a lot of this work is along our railways, but really anywhere else where they see encampments, they take a proactive effort in addressing those issues by posting and then coordinating cleanup. The approach is really a clean and safe approach. We are concerned about our community impacts, our business impacts. Same with the park rangers. They provide the same support and primarily for our parks and trails, but it truly is a coordinated effort. Our code enforcement division, they support and coordinate these efforts by working with the property owners. Many times we may find an encampment on private property, but it requires the participation of that property owner or shopping center to mitigate the impacts. Sometimes there may be a dependency on just city or public safety to address all the issues, but because sometimes we find encampments on public property versus private property, when it's encampments on private property, we really hope to have their cooperation in addressing the community impacts, and this is where code enforcement comes in, and they have partnerships with our shopping centers and property owners in coming up with strategies to best address these issues. As you may be aware, we use 2M for our cleanup efforts. Over the course of the last couple of years, we have coordinated the hauling away of about 260 tons of trash that gets delivered to the landfill. In doing so, we've also spent about $200,000 in cleanup. And this is just to, again, this is to maintain a standard of what would be considered clean and safe for our community. And it's something that we manage. It's something that is difficult to eliminate, but the dollar amount and the tonnage that I described, it's ongoing in a sense. That's a snapshot from the city perspective. As mentioned, we have representatives from different departments, divisions, organizations here to answer questions. I would turn the time over to Santa Barbara County, and then we can probably take questions and answers after their presentation.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you're Mr. Zonick.
Yes, Madam
Okay.
Mayor, I am.
Okay.
Oh, we have the clicker. Here you go. All right. So good evening, Madam Mayor, honorable members of the City Council. I am Joe Dzvonek, Deputy Director for Santa Barbara County's Housing and Community Development Division. I'm joined today by Lucille Boss, who is serving as the County Interim Housing Programs Manager. I also want to point out again that we have in the audience with us Linda Belsch, who is the Deputy Director for the Homeless Services Division in SLO County. We truly appreciate her being here with us today. We have leadership from Good Samaritan and Fighting Back Santa Maria Valley as well. Thank you for being here. So today, Lucille and I are going to provide an update on the recent efforts to address homelessness in Santa Barbara County with special emphasis on the city of Santa Maria. Next slide, please. So let's start right off with the key points and the good news first. 1,400 people have transitioned out of homelessness and into permanent housing in 2023. This represents the highest level of success in any one year for this critical metric since being measured for our county. And this is the third year in a row of increasing success. This one metric is really the thermometer of whether or not a homeless strategy is working, because it's not about just providing housing. It's about service providers knowing how to build trust, navigate systems, and being relentless. But in order for those service providers to be successful, our community has to have what I call a continuum of shelter available to support that plan. Most of us are aware that to improve the chances of getting someone who is unhoused to the point of permanent housing, more often than not, requires moving them through a series of shelters. Sometimes their journey back to housing begins in emergency congregate shelters, sometimes warming centers, sometimes medical facilities, or even justice pathways. But having this continuum of shelter available and staffed by expert service providers is what has helped us to transition 1,400 people out of homelessness last year. And looking back at the slide, at that tab on the far right, this shows us that things are about to get better. La Posada and Hope Village, which both opened this spring, they both represent a huge widening of the gateway to exiting homelessness in Santa Barbara County. But now let me also say a few words about the troubling trends we see on the slide. One, there is a consistent inflow of people accessing services for the first time, which is good and bad, and therefore I colored it amber. It's good because we're fortunate to have an ever-increasing number of pathways available for people to seek and find services. But it's bad because it also means more people are approaching and entering homelessness for the first time. Another troubling trend we saw was an increase in the number of families requiring shelter and housing services. And third, we see a significant growth in the category of vehicular homelessness across the county, with a disproportionate growth of those living in vehicles being either seniors or families. As some of you may be aware, to confront the issue of vehicular homelessness, staff from Santa Barbara County and the cities joined together and successfully applied for $8 million to implement a strategy to tackle this issue directly. We will talk more about our vehicular homelessness plan later in this presentation. There has been major progress in enhancing interim housing beds in Santa Maria. The opening of Hope Village in March 2024 received much attention. And since its opening, 124 people have been sheltered at the site. The Santa Maria Emergency Shelter on Morrison Avenue opened their day habilitation center. This new program allows many of the residents to remain on campus during day hours, which mitigates loitering and other impacts for the city. Plus, it is funded by Medi-Cal, which is a sustainable funding source. And the Commercial Kitchen on the Morrison Avenue campus launched a culinary arts program that supports meals for several other Good Sam shelter programs in Santa Maria and elsewhere. And finally, Good Samaritan purchased 2 single-family homes to provide transitional housing for veterans. This amazing expansion makes more beds available at the Santa Maria Emergency Shelter for other unhoused subpopulations while providing a more home-like and comfortable setting for veterans experiencing homelessness here in Santa Maria. I want to briefly take a look at the trends resulting from this year's annual point-in-time count. First, I want to mention that the level of volunteerism, combined with the level of staff coordination it takes to get this done in a matter of hours across the entire county, is tremendous. However, for the sake of time today and the fact that there is a specific report available that digs deep into this operation and analysis of this event, I'm not going to spend much time on it because it truly does represent only a snapshot in time. But when we look at the snapshots for the last 2 years, we see a 12% jump overall in the number of individuals visible to us as being unhoused, specifically an increase of 232 individuals. This trend undoubtedly reflects a true overall increase in homelessness, but I will add this, that even in comparison of the 2 previous pit counts, say of 2022 to 2023, we saw what appeared to be a decrease. However, we're pretty certain that in reality, homelessness was still increasing between those 2 years, and every year being shown here, in fact. It's just that the snapshot we took at that particular time didn't capture it. Also noted on this slide here are the 3 subpopulations mentioned earlier that are increasing more readily than most others. People living in vehicles, families with minor children, and people experiencing homelessness for the first time. On this slide, you're seeing a heat map comparison for the 2023 and 2024 point-in-time count events. The large yellow gold clusters represent a count of unhoused persons in that area of 10 or more in number. The larger green clusters represent counts of 9 unhoused individuals and below for that area. And the smaller dots represent individual unhoused people that were either interviewed or just observed, and some individuals that are either living in vehicles or structures. So a comparison of the 2023 to the 2024 heat map reflects a 10% overall decrease between those 2 years, down from 472 individuals to 424. Also, fewer persons were counted in the area near the airport to the southwest, and fewer were also counted along the railroad tracks on the middle west side of town. The data in the table demonstrates a significant jump in homelessness overall after the January 2020 pit count, which is obviously due to the effects of COVID. With the increased availability of beds like Hope Village and other projects we mentioned earlier, we will see the number of those living outdoors going down, the number of sheltered going up, but the number living in vehicles remaining high after that initial COVID jump between 20 and 22. And finally, while encampments in the majority of Santa Maria Riverbed are not included in our county's pit count, San Luis Obispo officials counted 88 people there on the day of their point-in-time count. I will now turn it over to Lucille Boss to discuss specific updates in our encampment resolution strategy efforts.
Thank you, Joe, and good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, and staff. The countywide community action plan adopted by this council in 2021 called for strengthening the regional support system to obtain and maintain housing. A key action of this strategy was to create a coordinated encampment response. The county's encampment resolution strategy and response protocol, also adopted in 2021, relies on an effective system of care that can ultimately provide shelter, housing, and services to meet the needs of persons experiencing homelessness. The collective efforts to resolve encampments among county, cities, Caltrans, and railroad partners between 2021 and 2023 resulted in removal or clearing of approximately 700 active encampments. This included 321 led by county efforts, and through the end of the last calendar year, 37 sites in the Santa Maria Riverbed. In a couple of moments, we'll provide an update on the Santa Maria Riverbed, as there's been much coordinated activity in 2024. Of the persons residing in the removed or cleared encampments, 289 have relocated to shelter or housing, and there's been a 13% decrease in calls for service per county fire. These efforts and results were funded by county, ARPA, state, and local fiscal recovery funds, and California Encampment Resolution Funding Program. Beginning in the second year of the county's strategy and protocol implementation, the county's contracted sanitation services provider, Quick Response, carefully tracked waste removal. In that year alone, totals removed from encampment sites include nearly 71 tons of waste, nearly 5 pounds of needles, 145 pounds of biohazard waste, and 73 propane tanks. The strategy, including the encampment response protocol, have been leveraged in applications for funding, including the competitive statewide Encampment Resolution Fund. Santa Barbara County, in partnership with the City of Santa Maria and other jurisdictions throughout our region, has been awarded in 3 rounds of funding. One focused on resolving encampments along the transit corridor, another to deploy a specialized outreach team to address encampments in waterways, including riverbeds, creeks, and beaches, and most recently to resolve vehicular encampments. The first of these awards focused on the transit corridor, defined as areas where highways and railroads parallel or intersect. And as you can see on the screen, the transit corridor included a large portion of the city of Santa Maria. The white dots, which you can hopefully see, represent resolved encampments, and other colors represent camps not yet resolved. The funding expanded outreach efforts, interim housing options, and included some environmental rehabilitation. This 2-year effort that just ended on June 30th resulted in 89 persons in the city of Santa Maria served, with 31 of them housed and 21 of them entering shelter or interim housing. The second of the awards is in its first year and is focused on waterways. This effort includes the Santa Maria Riverbed and has required collaboration and coordination between the county, the city of Santa Maria, and the county of San Luis Obispo. One example of this coordination was in the Seaward area. Partnership between the county of Santa Barbara and the city of Santa Maria in April resulted in a removal of 21 encampment sites. As of June 30th, 81 people in the riverbed have been served, 19 have moved into shelter or interim housing, and 3 have been permanently housed. I'll turn it over to Joe to discuss next steps in the Santa Maria Riverbed efforts.
Yeah, so at the moment we have over 100, perhaps as many as 120 unhoused individuals encamped throughout the Santa Maria Riverbed area. However, as Lucille just mentioned, staff from the County of Santa Barbara, the County of San Luis Obispo, and the City of Santa Maria are in the final stages of working through and establishing solutions to the complex jurisdictional issues that have traditionally prevented significant and sustained action of any kind in the riverbed with regards to resolving and preventing encampments there. While our SURF 2 funds and strategy have facilitated an unprecedented level of outreach to finally occur at those encampments since last October, as demonstrated in some of the metrics shown here today, we will only begin to see permanent resolution and prevention of more encampments in our riverbed over the next year. And I turn it back over to Lucille to finish.
And the third of the California Encampment Resolution Fund awards is really just getting started and is focused on clusters of vehicle encampments. The funding will expand outreach teams focused on vehicle encampments, safe parking program lots, and flexible permanent housing funds. New Beginnings Safe Parking Program, which is the national model for addressing vehicular homelessness, is contracted to address vehicle encampments countywide. In Santa Maria, the efforts funded by this source will focus on the 4 areas identified on the slide. We continue to be grateful for the support and collaboration from the City of Santa Maria in this effort, and we look forward to providing updates once the effort is really in full swing. So we know how to solve homelessness, and we know the actions required to do so. We do it by increasing the combined availability of attainable housing and effective services. But how do we make this happen? By changing the way that we look at the creation and availability of affordable housing while increasing our support to the hardworking outreach teams, case managers, and all others involved in the service provider workforce. So, Madam Mayor, members of this council, thank you again for your time today, and we look forward to your comments and questions.
Any questions from the dais? Ms. Soto?
Thank you for the detailed report, and thank you to our community partner agencies that are here today, Good Sam and Fighting Back, for the work that they do, and San Luis Obispo County as well, for their partnership. I know that it was mentioned that although it may have seemed like there were less people in homelessness because of the snapshot of the last point in count, that there has been an increase in families and seniors living in their vehicles. What are some things that other cities in the county have done to support people living out of their vehicles?
Sure, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Soto. Vehicles specifically, one of the major ways that we have provided overnight shelter and support and connection with services for people living in their vehicles has been through safe parking program lots. So it's a place where people can park safely overnight. There is a lot monitor. There are case managers to connect with them. That has been a really great way to connect with people. Many people who are living in their vehicles are working during the day or have other activities, and they just need that safe place to sleep at night. The Safe Parking Program has really also done a phenomenal job of linking people to permanent housing, and that's a major part of the funding that was just awarded from the state. So we look forward to many more people moving from currently in their vehicles to Safe Parking Program lots into permanent housing.
What cities in the county have you seen implement that?
Hopefully I don't miss one, but Carpinteria, Santa Barbara, Goleta, and Lompoc, to my knowledge.
Great, thank you.
Question. Ms. Aguilera Hernandez?
Do we have the number of people within the last 2 weeks that are residing in the riverbed?
Yes, I mentioned in the presentation, I think we have about somewhere between 100 and 120, so not exactly, but that's our estimate.
Yeah, because I heard 120, and when you drive in, it looks like a lot more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what are the services and what are we doing? So I guess the question is, how many of that is within City of Santa Maria limits and how many of that is County of San Luis Obispo?
Well, the majority of as you know, the majority of the Santa Maria riverbed actually is, and that's what makes this problem a little bit of a juggernaut, is that, the majority of the parcels in the riverbed are within the County of SLO's jurisdiction. And the only parcels that really fall onto the Santa Barbara County side are the ones that are over there in the Seaward and Magellan area that we referred to earlier. So we were able to, under our own coordination just with the City of Santa Maria, back in early April, we went out there and cleared, basically offered services, took beds. A lot of those folks went into Hope Village and removed, cleaned up those encampments. So the complicated piece has been that the majority of the encampments are outside of the county's jurisdiction or even Santa Maria's. But as I said, we are at a point now where we have reached a really good level of coordination between those two, and I think we're going to start seeing some significant changes here.
So when we talked about the 120, is that on both San Luis County and Santa Maria city limits or
yes.
county? So
yeah,
it's
that
both.
count. That count wouldn't really. It's not delineating between which boundary. I'm just looking at the riverbed in general. It's about 100 to 120 people, but the majority of the parcels being in SLO County, the majority of the folks would be also in SLO County's jurisdiction.
So is there a way to get the number of SLO County out of the 120?
Well, SLO County, again, I mentioned during the presentation that when they did their point in time count, they counted 88 individuals.
Okay. So out of the 120, 88 are in SLO County jurisdiction.
That could be, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I know when the Seaward area was cleaned out, and then people had called me about that because they were concerned, but then there was someone that was, I don't know who it was, and you may not even know, then someone going over there and feeding people over there, and then again, people were gravitating more after we had cleaned that part out.
Yeah, so we checked. I mean, the last that I'm aware of, there was one or two tents that reappeared in the parcels that belong to Santa Maria City. I immediately talked with the rangers, and we went out and noticed them, and they had since been removed. It's true. I mean, that's not unique to Santa Maria. Other cities, when I go to meet with their city leaders, they have citizens that go out and will feed people and provide tents and clothing and so forth, which I guess you can consider that enabling them to stay in that condition. But yeah, I don't know who would be doing that here. That's beyond me.
And so when our police officers then remove their belongings or remove tents because we don't allow the camping in Santa Maria, they just sort of shrug their shoulders and it doesn't matter. We'll get a new one tomorrow. And I guess I'm not a proponent of the housing first issue because I think we recognize we have a lot of these people that are drug addicted, they have mental health issues, and I know that we have services there, but if they're not going to accept the services and we're still housing them, to me it's just like pouring bad money after bad money down the drain. And I don't expect you to respond to that, but I know that, we certainly have a lot of those issues that people complain about. We are spending a lot of money in the city of, taxpayer money in the city of Santa Maria, trying to address a problem that we just can't seem to get a hold of. And so when we clean up the riverbed, and you've got Caltrans, I don't think you mentioned Caltrans, but when they clean under the bridge, then the people then go out to the west side of the 101, and then when they clean up there, then they go back under the bridge. So it just doesn't seem to, unless it's all coordinated, it doesn't really help.
Well, that is the trick, is the coordination piece. That's what we're trying to work on to make sure that once we, offer services, give people a chance to move to another avenue rather than living in the riverbed, and then we clean that area up. The trick is to really maintain the patrolling and enforcement of the trespassing, and that's the hard part, because a lot of our law enforcement, whether they be sheriff's department or police department, are already working so much overtime. It's difficult for them to spend a lot of time patrolling. But this time we're gonna try it again and coordinate between those three jurisdictions to make sure that once we have these encampments resolved, that we prevent rehabilitation.
Okay, so we have someone that got busted for the sale of meth, fentanyl, okay, in Hope Village, and they get picked up. So what happens to them? Do they just go back out on the streets? Or maybe I should ask our own police department.
Well, I mean, I can tell you they're removed if that happens. They are by the
No,
rules.
it did happen.
Yeah, removed from Hope Village. But after that, it's a criminal action like any other person. So I guess the sheriff could discuss that.
So, okay, Ms. Aguilera.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to answer that, I want.
I feel like you guys answered it. If they're homeless and they're living in the shelter and then they do something that gets them evicted, and it's a criminal matter, we would, depending on the crime, they could be issued a citation and release most likely, potentially taken to jail and then cite release at a later time depending on the significance, and then they would be back out on the street or wherever they choose to live.
I guess what concerns me is the safety in some of these areas, because I know that at Hope Village and the surrounding area, calls for service have tripled in that area. And I get complaints from the people that own the shopping center. And I don't expect you to respond. That's, I understand that. But it's really a concern that people don't feel safe necessarily that live close to the riverbed. And people don't feel safe living close to necessarily Hope Village because of the issues that we've had. And that's unfortunate.
No, I could respond. So there was a triple in calls for service in the first month, and then what I've done since then, I have working with the supervisors and some of the city. I sit down with all the business leaders and the property owners around Hope Village now. We're going to do this, and I also have a separate meeting for all of the security firms that operate under Westar and Lene Hunter and all those areas as well. And we're working out a way to kind of bring together our resources to generate better outreach in the area for the homeless individuals who may be sort of moving toward Hope Village because of the resources, and working with the business leaders really closely to implement some of those at low cost as possible. We're just getting started, but I can also say that last month, I believe I was informed that the calls for service dropped from 120 to 30. They dropped by 30 in the last month. So it's the first 120 days of opening a large project like that, 90 to 120 days, you will see the turbulence as it becomes a novelty, a place for other unhoused individuals who may wish they could be there, going to visit friends and family, or just kind of see what it's all about. But with the measures that we're implementing, working closely with 2 specific members of the Santa Maria PD, along with all of the security agencies that are hired by the property owners, along with the property owners and business owners themselves, we intend to make that fear dissipate very quickly.
Okay, well, unless I'm getting the information late or wrong, that wasn't the the information that I was getting, that it had dropped at all. So
Okay.
I will check with our PD.
Madam Mayor,
Miss,
Yes.
go ahead.
So I want us to keep a very close eye on the riverbed because I believe it's inhumane to allow people to live like that. Santa Maria said they spent $200,000 on that. We're talking about 32 people on the side for Santa Maria, not San Luis Obispo County. I believe that as City Council, we should get updates. We should see progress. We should see things happening, as you stated, pretty quickly. We'll start to see change. I really would like for us to get updates, at least quarterly, because it is so important. I was driving from Nipomo in the afternoon, and I did see the fire, and I was informed that it's now a 4-acre fire that is out there. It's dangerous. And so I really hope that now that we're talking with San Luis Obispo County that there will be progress, but I do want to keep us accountable that we do need to do something out there.
Yeah, I fully agree. And we communicate with Chen constantly. So.
And that's why, San Luis Obispo, we don't have a lot of control, but we do need to talk to them because they are our neighbor, and it's important to be a good neighbor. And so I'm glad that San Luis Obispo showed up because it's really important for our citizens, our residents, to know that we're doing something about it.
Ms. Center?
Thank you. I agree with what was just said. And I would like to add that what the County of Santa Barbara, in partnership with the County of SLO and our nonprofits are doing, it's great, but it's really going to take all of us. And I know, Madam Mayor, that you said that the city has invested time and resources, but I disagree. Aside from enforcement, I really don't know, and CDBG funds, I don't know what the city is doing to address homelessness in the county of Santa Barbara, in our part of the county of Santa Barbara. Regardless of whether it's San Luis Obispo's jurisdiction or not, it's the riverbed. It's people that we see, that we may interact with. I mean, we may walk by when we're using the riverbed as a trail. And so it's true, it's inhumane to have people living like that, but I really don't care if it's San Luis Obispo's jurisdiction or Santa Barbara's jurisdiction if we're having to see them and walk by these encampments every day, especially when I know that the city of Santa Maria isn't doing enough. A couple of years ago, while I was on the city council, I remember that there were conversations about putting in place a safe parking program in the city of Santa Maria, and that was something that was not favored by council members, including you, Madam Mayor, and
right.
Councilmember Cordero. And so, like I said, aside from enforcement, we're not doing anything else. And so, I hope that with the interest that Councilmember Aguilera Hernandez has, and I mean, Councilmember Escobedo isn't here, but that this ignites a fire within us as elected officials to step up and address this issue, because there have also been other incidences. For instance, Motel 6, the fixing up of Motel 6, and that was an opportunity for us to provide rapid housing, but the city of Santa Maria, Mayor Patino, it was turned down. And so Hope Village is another example where we decided to turn our backs and not support the county with those initiatives and those efforts. So I understand that some of you may not believe in the Housing First model. And I understand that we want quarterly updates and whatnot, but those quarterly updates should be coming from our own staff by us taking initiative and putting in place a plan, putting bringing our brains together, working collaboratively to truly address this issue, and not just sitting back and saying, oh yeah, that's a problem, let me call code enforcement or PD to go and clear out these encampments, or 2M to go clear out these encampments, and just throwing money at clearing out sites, but not really taking into consideration the humanity of the individuals that are living there.
And I don't think I'm necessarily saying that, I agree it is inhumane, but where do we get the resources? Where do we get the money to do what you're talking about doing? Because it doesn't come to us, it comes to the county, and they figure out how they're going to use it in the city of Santa Maria. Mm-hmm. We don't get the say-so in that.
Right.
And when they were doing the Motel 6, mm-hmm. they started that without even asking us. And that is why I opposed that. And it was not going to be done on an entry coming into Santa Maria. That was not the answer.
Well, and I think that's why it's so important that we all work together, and that's why I'm asking for the county to give us updates. And, having parking is an idea, but I think we need more long-term housing. You're talking about 120 people. It's doable. We need a plan. We have the money. So it's really about getting the work done. And so we have a builder here who can probably tell us he can build some homes. So, I think it's a problem. We need a plan. We need updates. We need to get it done. Like I said, I think we can do it. It's not an unreasonable goal, but we all do need to work together. And like I said, I'm glad that San Luis County is here, because now we're all talking and we do need to move this forward. Thank you.
Mr. Cordero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For your edification, Ms. Soto, I talked with the city manager of our last city manager several times about getting the safe parking system going here in Santa Maria. So your information is incorrect. And the idea about the fire, certainly, we still have members of the fire department here, certainly is a concern. But the real problem, in my opinion, is water. I've been here, living here for over 50 years, and at least twice, maybe 3 times, I've seen this river run bank to bank about a foot under the bottom of the bridge going over on 101. If that happens, we will never know where those people are. They will be gone. They will be buried somewhere between here and Guadalupe or in the ocean somewhere. That's what would happen. And I never hear that addressed. So when Councilwoman Maribel says that it's inhumane, it is, and it is dangerous. These poor people don't have anywhere else to go. And if you take that domicile that they put together away, they're just going to infiltrate back into the city or someplace else. They're going to go further back in the mountains to to provide themselves with this, with their personal needs. So the real danger is an active waterway, or a real danger is an active waterway. Fire is immediate, but a waterway is going to take them all. And that scares me more than the fire, because they can run from that. So I don't know whether you've ever discussed that as a potential problem, but it's coming. I don't know when, but that river will run bank to bank again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so at the county level, anytime the rainstorms come in, days, if not weeks before predicted weather events like that occur, or even just letting some of the water from Lake Kachuma run, the EOC, we get together and actually Lucille and I and Kimberly represent the homeless aspect of all of this in the EOC, to where we'll work with law enforcement to notify the outreach workers. Will go out and tell everybody there's a storm coming, get out of the riverbed, or perhaps the water will be let loose out of Kachuma. So I think the last few floods that we've had, successfully done that, especially in Santa Maria. It gets actually a little trickier down in South County, where the waterways are narrower and more under vegetation. It's more difficult to see. But here, the Sheriff's Department flies helicopters over as well, notifying all of them. So it's a very large part of our emergency action plan at the county level to notify unhoused individuals in the riverbed prior to weather events like that.
Good.
I also want to note that in providing services, we've tried to do a one model fits all. And each person has different difficulties. Like you're talking about the teenagers that don't have housing, they have different issues. The mental health issues are different from the drug issues. I think we also need to focus on that and work the services with each person individually, looking at what do they need. Because California spent $1 billion treating it one size fits all, and we're not going to get anywhere that way. So I think we also need to focus on the different types of services that each person needs and tailor it to that for long-term results, not just short-term.
Yeah, and Hope Village actually kind of represents that model, right? We have behavioral health beds, we have transitional age youth beds, we have recuperative care beds. Even veterans, we have beds for different people. The one thing that's the same for all of them is that there's a shelter, and they have air. So that is kind of the model of Hope Village being.
Well, I think that's where I disagree. So the young people who are homeless have different needs. So I believe their location should have been at a different location, closer to college, right? Because we're trying to get them to go to school, get them different services, right? Seniors have different. So there should be probably closer to downtown, where it's closer to walk, right? Shopping, food, grocery stores. Lumping them all together on Betaravia, where they have different needs, where it's really an industrial area, I think is difficult. So that's where I say Hope Village, we didn't have the vision to say we probably should have separated them and placed them in a location where it's better for the group.
You just have to remember that Hope Village it's the initial step. It's the transitional stage out of a public space, whether it's a park or a riverbed. The programs you're talking about would be the next step. Some people could go directly into some of those, but Hope Village represents that initial. Come in here right now, we have transitional age youth in there and so forth. Not to stay for any longer than they need to. It's not where they're going to live the rest of their life. Everything you just said is correct.
Mm-hmm. Correct. So, next time we do something, I would like for us to look at that. You're also impacting one area with 100 people. It's much more visible than if you would have done, 25 in 4 different areas. So I think that's also keeping in mind the neighborhoods where we're going in to do these programs. So that's kind of where I'm going with it.
Understood.
Well, the youth that are put in there are like 18 to 24.
Correct.
Okay. And so a lot of these are, and I think that part has been very successful, because those kids are either going to work or they're going to school. But it gives them some stability, because most of those kids, I think, are termed out of foster care. Isn't that right?
Yeah, by 21.
Yeah. So they get termed out at 18. Yeah.
21 if you're going to school.
Oh, it did?
And
Okay.
to your point, Councilmember Aguilera, I think that's where the partnership, the city-county partnership, and the private sector really come into play, because the county can't do that if the city doesn't work with them and allow for that to be constructed or built or to be moving forward. I know when Hostile Builders developed that project out in the Cox Bungalows, and there was a shift from market rate senior housing to housing for people with special needs. That was a contentious issue among city council members. But again, that goes back to the fact that for too long, our council has turned down opportunities to help address homelessness, to help address housing those with the most need and those who are the most vulnerable. And so I really hope that with you on board, Councilmember Aguilera, and that we're able to make a difference and an impact.
Okay, now Linda, you're from San Luis Obispo. Did you want to make any comments? And I didn't get your last name.
It's a Belch.
Belch. Thank you, and I'm a little shorter than Joe, so I have to adjust the mic to my height. I am Linda Belch, I'm Deputy Director. I actually oversee adult and homeless services in San Luis Obispo County, and I was really excited to be invited here tonight to participate in this conversation. Joe and I have worked together for a very long time, and we share the same vision, and that's a vision where we work together with our cities, our counties, our private providers, our industries, our individuals with lived experience to really develop some revolutionary solutions to what has been a long-term problem that just frankly hasn't been solved to date. And so I don't have the solution today, but I am here to tell you that we are here. We are here to partner not just in Santa Maria Riverbed project, although that's certainly an exciting opportunity, but to put our heads together so that we can use our collective efforts and talents to really bring forward this community of Santa Barbara County and San Luis Obispo County to find some good solutions.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Cordero.
I saw that Good Sam moved over, and I think she wants to say something. She's probably one of the smarter ones in the room.
Maybe not today.
Mrs. Bernard?
I'm Sylvie Bernard. I'm the Executive Director of Good Samaritan. First of all, I want to thank the Santa Maria Police Department. They've done an amazing job. Sergeant Diaz has shown incredible leadership and worked in partnership with us. I just have to say that, you know, Hope Village, there has been some feedback, minimal from the neighbors. We've been working with them closely. We knew that the first 90 days of taking 100 of the most vulnerable, unsheltered individuals in this community and putting them in one location was not going to be like without making a footprint. There has been an increase for calls for service, with the exception of last month that it went down by 30, as Joe mentioned. And many of those calls are because we took 30 of the most medically fragile individuals from Dignity Health and put them in there, and they all have medical needs. And so oftentimes it's us calling for help. Our clients are very fragile. They need assistance. We didn't screen everyone for a criminal background check. We don't do that when people come in, outside of we don't take registered sex offenders. So when individuals come in and they break the law, they're committing a crime. We call our partners and we address it together. We're not in the business of trying to harbor fugitives. We're here to help people get back on their feet. We do have a holistic approach. We have mental health services on site, including therapy. We have drug and alcohol outreach and treatment. We actually have about a dozen individuals that are walking a couple blocks up the street for treatment at our clinic. We have 24 people on medicated assisted treatment. They've decided to get clean. And this isn't going to happen on day 1 or day 2, but as we go through, it does. We do not tolerate having drugs and alcohol on site, and if we need to call in our law enforcement partners, we will, and we have done that. We are convinced that we are going to be good neighbors, that we are good neighbors already. We're working closely with the county and the neighbors in that process with our security teams and their security teams. So, you know, we have about 140 homeless individuals living at Morrison Avenue. We don't have huge issues there. We rely again on our law enforcement partners, and we, you know, have a sense of community. We're doing the same at Hope Village. You know, when people come into the emergency shelter, we don't screen them if they're senior or if they're a family or, you know, if they're 18 years old. Many of the ones that went to Hope Village were living at our shelter with everyone of all ages. It would be great if we had funding to do things like that, especially with the veterans. We have a couple houses for veterans, and it works great. So I think that that model is something to look at in the future with funding coming down. But I just want to say that, you know, we are proud to be a homeless service provider in Santa Maria. We've expanded our services from everything from outreach to shelter to housing. We're the only shelter provider in the county that includes drug and alcohol treatment and mental health services, and we provide that access on site. So, you know, we're here to continue to work through the issues, to be able to address the needs of the Santa Maria Riverbed. We're proud of our partners that we have at the table, including the city, and we look forward to being able to resolve and reduce the numbers of homeless individuals and families we see in our community.
Thank you, Sylvia. And I don't expect perfection because you're dealing with people. But when I get calls from the owners of the shopping center and I get calls from people who live in the area, I need to respond, you know, and I'm being held accountable too, as I know, and I know both you and Edwin and I know Sue are going to be accountable for what you do. But you need to also know what I'm hearing from people that call me. Mr. Weaver, did you want to speak?
I did. Thank you. Thank you. First of all, thank you for agendizing this and getting the county here. They're doing such a good job. A couple thoughts. One is I appreciate that you do respond to every call, every mail, every phone call. All of you do. You're very responsive to your constituents. I do think Sergeant Diaz has been your representative at that meeting that Joe has been handing, and he's on it, and they're working really hard, and including maybe the rangers, because the park across the street is park land, so they're trying to be creative at getting as much law enforcement there to address the needs of the commercial businesses, because they're the most concerned. But we have included them. They're invited to that Friday meeting so they could talk about their concerns, and then we address them right on the spot. So that's already happening. But I also wanted to talk about our overall strategy isn't a one-size-fits-all, and I appreciate you seeing that that's impossible to do, because every person is a human being with lots of history, lots of different needs. And so, you know, Hope Village is the beginning of a long journey from somebody reaching out to them and saying, hey, I care about you. It's inhumane what you're doing. We don't want you to live this way anymore. Would you please try something different? Here's an individual unit that you can live in and get on your feet, but that is just the beginning. And so for us, of our 10 beds, we already have 4 people who've moved out into permanent housing. Our permanent housing is right by Hancock. It's on Park in between Miller and College. We bought that house to put 4 permanent supportive beds because, like you, we want to utilize that resource that we have. Plus, we want them to be near the transit center. Our navigation center that we're hopefully buying is on Chapel, right up in between Miller and College. And although we would like to have been closer to the college, price and availability of commercial property precludes that, but it's still within walking distance very much so. I've walked it many times, but it also is close to the mall, it's close to a lot of jobs, it's close to groceries, it's close to the pharmacy, so, and there's a bus line right up and down Main Street. So, you know, again, I think the main thing is what you're asking for is more input and more kind of control of what happens in the city around homelessness. And I would encourage you to get more involved with the continuum of care. You send Rosie, and she's amazing. She does a good job representing the city, but that's where all the state and federal money gets talked about. And so if you have an idea of something that you want to see done in the city of Santa Maria, that's where you hear about the monies that are available, and that's where you can say, okay, here's a project that maybe we should go for as a city and sponsor something. And then you have the input. You design what it is with your team and decide how you want to create space for people who are unhoused and address the issue as a city. Because I do think, you know, a lot of the initiatives so far have been county, and that doesn't feel good because it's your city. We like to have control of our own destiny. We like to make decisions, and I know it's frustrating when the state says something and then the county does something, but here there are opportunities for the city to get more involved if they come to the continuum of care. It's a public meeting, anybody can come, you all can come. And then you can also send a representative from the city with Rosie and start asking to start your own projects that would be controlled by the city, because I think that's a great idea. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Mr. Cordero.
Madam Mayor, I think that some of us get the idea that, and I don't mean the five of us up here, I think just people in general, get the idea that they built Hope Village, which I wholeheartedly supported and in fact was involved with furnishing, I think, 6 of the rooms. And you put this facility there and we move them in there and you think it's all fixed. Well, it's not. You know, it's not all fixed. These people are taken from the riverbed in this case, and all of a sudden they have to live under conditions that they're just not used to. So it's difficult. It's a transition that they have to go through. And it's not an easy transition for any of us as human beings. You're used to making all your own decisions, doing what you want, get up when you want, go to bed when you want, and then you can't all of a sudden. There's curfews and whatnot. And I think that Sylvia, although she didn't say it like this, but I think that what she was trying to convey is that there's rules, and they have to comply with those rules. And I think therein lies a meaningful success to your success as dealing with these homeless people, because they know. They learn quickly that this is Sylvia's place and we're going to have to abide by the rules. And it takes a while, and we're not going to solve this problem overnight. And this is not a problem for everyone up here. This is not a problem that's unique to Santa Maria. This is nationwide, worldwide. So it's not. We're not going to come up with anything that hasn't been brought up before, in my opinion. It's been tried, and we just have to keep working at it and working at it and working at it, and it's in our time probably never going to go away, but we can do better.
Thank you. So we are going to receive and file this update on the encampment, and Mr. Dzwonek, I want to thank you. Linda Belch, I want to thank you, and Lucille. And thank you also, Sylvia and Edwin, for your comments. Oh. Okay, Matt Cherkoff.
Madam Mayor, that public comment is for item 12.
Oh, this is for, okay, this is not for him.
Not this
okay.
one, correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we will receive and file, and thank you very much for the presentation this evening.
Thank you all.
Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Does anyone wish to pull anything from the consent calendar?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to pull item 12C2 for a separate discussion.
C4? Oh.
12C2, the adoption of a resolution to award a professional service agreement for the active transportation project.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of
So moved, Madam Mayor.
C2?
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the consent calendar minus 12C2. Right, okay. Madam Clerk?
Yes, I just wanted to add that we do also have that public comment for 12A2, I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Mr. Cherkoff.
I'm sorry, 12A3.
12A3, okay.
Yes, which is the adoption of a resolution authorizing the revision of the paying and reporting value of employer-paid member contributions to the California Public Employees Retirement System for the public safety managers.
Okay, Mr. Cherkoff?
City Council, City Staff, Matthew Cherkoff, President, Santa Maria City Firefighters, Local 2020. First and foremost, thank you, Councilmember Cordero, for those comments earlier about the firefighter memorial. We're really excited to get that going, and hopefully our retiree will see that to fruition. So this item regarding the public safety managers, EPMC contributions, I want to provide some insight into how this began and how the public safety managers began paying an excess amount into their CalPERS pension. From January 2018 through June of 2019, Local 2020 was out of contract since the city was demanding deep concessions from my union. April 17th, 2018, while we were out of contract, the city offered a pay and benefit resolution to the fire public safety managers. This included a 10.5% raise in exchange for the 9% additional pension contribution. Yes, you heard that correctly, a 10.5% raise, while the city wanted concessions from us, the rank and file firefighters. The resolution discussion states that the proposal will result in a more equitable percentage difference between Fire Tier 1 and Fire Tier 2. I have several questions. First and foremost, why are you proposing this resolution without any presentation of the historical context? As I explained earlier, on April 17th, 2018, City Council provided a large salary offset, 10.5% salary increase, to the fire public safety managers in exchange for an increase in pension contributions. Second, why are you not proposing this for Fire Tier 3 public safety managers, who will pay 14.5% plus 9%, for a total of 23.5%? This is 2/3 of my current membership, who will one day promote to a public safety manager, which includes battalion chiefs or above. Where is the equity here? Third, don't you see the disparity here? A 9% reduction in pension contributions plus the already approved 5% wage increase is a 14% wage increase, which coincidentally was how far behind in pay the rank and file firefighters of this union were when we started negotiations in October. We now sit at 17.5% behind average pay. Fourth, my Tier 2 members only receive 6% EPMC. This proposal provides 9% EPMC to Tier 2 fire public safety managers. Again, where is the equity? Under the impact to the community section, it states this will have a positive impact on the continued longevity of current and future members. Remember, this is on top of the performance-based pay program these employees already receive. In a time of fiscal responsibility as a result of the structural deficit in the budget, what is the actual story? Fiscal responsibility, structural deficit, or better yet, neither? I'm calling on City Council to reject this item and direct city staff to bring this resolution back for consideration that includes a more equitable proposal for all employees, including those in the Fire Public Safety Managers Group. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar with the exception of 12A3, right?
12C2.
12C3, okay.
2.
Okay. Okay. Do you want,
Yeah.
do you want to do that? Do you want to
There was already a
revise
motion and a second.
your motion, or what do you want to do? You know, okay. I have a second? Okay.
Yes, Madam Mayor, you
Call the roll.
okay. Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Aguilar Hernandez?
Aye.
Councilmember Escobedo is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Soto?
Aye.
And Mayor Patino?
Aye. Okay, then we have 12C.
2.
Correct.
It's the award professional services agreement.
Yes.
Madam Clerk, can you read the title?
Yes, it is the adoption of a resolution to award a professional services agreement for active transportation plan project approval and environmental document.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I received an email, I believe it was earlier today or yesterday, regarding this item, which made me take another look at it. And I have some questions that I'd like to ask. One of those questions is really regarding the community engagement piece. I know that there was a lot of we did that during the active transportation plan, as we were putting that together, that there was an ask from community members to engage in that process. And but I'm curious, based on the report that was included in our packet, about the community engagement now that we are in this phase of the project, which is the design and the environmental impact analysis. So with that said, I believe that in the report it said that there will be community engagement, community input will be received once there's about 30% of the design completed. When there is that 30% of the design completed, how would the community input impact the design of what's already been done?
Yeah, thank you for your questions, Councilmember. That 30% is very, very important in terms of the design. If you look at other projects that we've, worked with the community on, if there's changes to crosswalks or if there's changes to, that's our opportunity to tweak things before it's fully designed. So really where this is at now is purely conceptual. So it's, hey, we're going to use these routes. We think it's going to be this alignment. We think that this is how it's going to work. Now's the time when the designers really put pen to paper and figure out what the specific details are going to be. So they'll come back, they'll start with the specific details, and then at that point we go to the community and say, is this going to work? And then if there's red flags, we go back and study the red flags to try to accommodate those red flags in the next percentage design.
Okay, great. Because I know that it was stated that given the grant that we received, we have to move forward with what we submitted in that grant. And so I just want to make sure that we still have time to go back and refine the design if needed at the 30% mark.
And the comment specifically towards that is related to the overall scope of the project and where the alignment is going to be. We told the grantor that we were going to be doing it along this particular alignment, and that is one of the reasons we were awarded the grant. So if we change that alignment, or if, unless we have a really, really good story as to why we would be doing that, could potentially put us in jeopardy of the grant. The idea of making specific changes, minor changes along that route is an entirely different issue that'll be part of the process.
And when you talk about the alignment, do you mean the corridors that will be impacted by this design or by this project?
Yeah, so with the $8 million project at hand, there's a specific alignment, and part of that is within the ATP. This was the alignment that was chosen as the priority and scored best on the grant application.
So would that include the East Chapel connection to East Main under the 101?
Let me see. Say that again. East Chapel
to Main.
I don't have the map in front of me. Which one?
Where Jack in the Box.
Oh yeah, East Chapel. Let's see. Mark is saying East Chapel is not included.
Chapel and Main do not cross.
No, but that corridor.
Oh, okay.
Chapel to Main adjacent to Jack in the Box. Yeah, that's so. You're asking if that specific section would be included? I don't believe so.
Because from my understanding, I think that was part of the discussion during the active transportation plan, was to find ways to safely connect those corridors, right, from East Main, the East Main over the overpass, because I think that would only be like the second one in the city aside from Alvin.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So if it's not included in this design, when would there be opportunity for us to go back and make sure that we create safe bike paths there?
That's going to require Caltrans cooperation. We did kick off a project study report for the East Main and 101 intersection. So that's currently underway. So it would have to be part of that process.
Okay.
So anything that was Caltrans related, we decided not to include that because of
Right.
timing.
Right. And then I believe, I don't know what street that says, I'm embarrassed, but connecting over, I think it's Bradley,
Yes.
Hancock.
Yeah. Yes. Mhm.
Terrace, Jones,
Yeah.
I think,
Mhm.
as well.
Mhm.
Is that included in this, in the alignment of this design?
Yeah, it doesn't, yes.
Okay, great.
It'll go under under the highway and then go north.
Okay.
So we actually already acquired the right of way that goes in front of the college.
Okay, great, great.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that not only with, I mean, the active transportation plan has been an excellent project, and I'm so glad that we've been able to find funding to at least get this design work off the ground. So thank you to city staff and everybody in the community who also participated in this process. You know, I'm a big proponent of making Santa Maria more bikeable, more walkable, especially with the discussions that we've had earlier today here at the city council meeting. And so anything that we can do to continue involving community, continuing with the community engagement piece, and continuing to refine the plan is going to be vital in order to ensure that we have the most connectivity throughout the city.
Yep.
Especially for young people who want to access the college. And again, really ensuring that corridor around East Chapel, Fessler, Junior High, Main Street, that those are areas that folks can feel comfortable in walking. And again, it's that connectivity to even Sway, essentially, when you look at that. So
Yeah, and this will be a major change in support of that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then one other question. I know that in the report it talked about bike lane, bike paths? Does that mean bike lanes?
So the paths are separated from the lanes. So if it's a bike lane, that would be on the road. If it's a path, it would be separated from the roadway.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that the city has done a great job, especially in the new development or in the new developments of town, or even as we're repaving roads, in condensing our lanes from 4 lanes to 3 lanes to 2 lanes by really adding that either a turning lane or by adding those bike lanes down Broadway with the partnership of Caltrans, really having signage that says that these lanes could be utilized by bikes has been really, really great. And so I just want to continue to uplift the work that you all are doing to make the city more bikeable and walkable and safe for folks. And just and encourage that we continue to do that, especially as we're repaving and adding new streets.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion for that?
I move.
Okay, can I have a second on 12C2? Okay. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Soto? Aye. Councilmember Aguilera Hernandez?
Aye.
Councilmember Escobedo is absent. And Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Mayor Patino?
Aye. Okay. So the next item is the item on the annual July appointments, and Assistant City Clerk Alex Valadez will be giving the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. The request before you tonight is to make various appointments to vacant positions on the Block Grants Advisory Committee, the Library Board of Trustees, and the Measure U Citizens Oversight Committee. I will present the committees to you one at a time for consideration of the appointments and City Council's ratification. I'll start with the Block Grants Advisory Committee, which has a total of 6 vacancies at this time. Staff has received one application from one of the incumbents, Robert Doyle, who was previously nominated by Mayor Patino. One new application was received by Carla Merrill. The appointees will serve a term of 3 years, each ending in July 2027. Each member of the City Council has a nomination to fill in this committee. Councilmember Soto has an additional nomination to fill for the unexpired term ending in July 2025. Following the nominations, appointments will then be confirmed by the mayor with ratification by the City Council.
Okay, Councilmember Aguilar Hernandez, do you have a nomination?
No, this is just for the library.
Councilmember Cordero, do you have a nomination?
Not at this time, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Soto, do you have a nomination?
I do, and I have a question. I know that there was an applicant that, that applied a couple of months back. They also applied for Recreation and Parks, and they highlighted that they were interested in both the commission and the committee, but I didn't see their application to come through.
The applications that were received for the April 2024 nominations, if they were not appointed at that time, they wouldn't have been carried over to this. But we do anticipate bringing back the appointments at the August meeting to be able to not only have Councilmember Escobedo make his appointments, but to in the hopes that we will receive more. So we can definitely look at that and give that person a call to see if they're able to put in an application for the block grant.
And I think that the issue, it wasn't so much that we decided that, like, I wasn't asked if I was ready to make a nomination. I think it was just postponed by.
There, April 2024, we did make some appointments, but again, the same here is we don't have enough applicants for all of the nominations. So that's the reason why we're bringing it back again so quickly.
So you're going to call that individual and ask
yes.
them? Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me ask you a question, because we have a lot of vacancies here to fill. So when someone does not reapply, do you let us know when that happens? Because it seems like there isn't any continuity here between our appointments and us.
Yes, so we do contact all of the incumbents to request that they reapply for those positions.
But do you, because mine reapplied, so you didn't need to contact me, but do you shoot them, the other council members, an email so that they will know that that's not going to happen?
Yes, it's included in the original email that goes out with initial applications.
Okay, so then we're going to hold this over until August then, right?
Well, we can make the appointments, any appointments that you'd like to make today, and then in addition, we can bring it back in August.
Okay, but right now we're talking CDBG, so.
Correct. Block Grants Advisory Committee.
Okay, so
yes.
then nobody has an appointment to make today, right?
If you don't have an appointment to make.
No, I have an appointment to make, but nobody else has an appointment, okay?
Because I can't appoint that person who applied back in April.
The only application that we have at the moment is Carla Merrill.
Okay, so I will appoint I will make the nomination to appoint Robert Doyle. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Yes, Mayor Patino?
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
And Councilmember Aguilar Hernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Soto?
Aye.
And Councilmember Escobedo is absent.
Okay.
Next, we will move on to Library Board of Trustees. We have a total of 2 vacancies at this time. Staff received an application from one incumbent, Sarah Luigi. No new applications were received. The appointee will serve a term of 3 years, each ending in July 2027. Appointments will be made by Mayor Patino, then ratified by the City Council.
Okay, so I will make a motion to appoint Sarah Logie to the Library Board of Trustees. Do I need a second?
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Mayor Patino?
Aye.
Councilmember Aguilar Hernandez?
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
And Mayor Pro Tem Soto?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next.
Next, we have the Measure U Citizens Oversight Committee, which has a total of 3 vacancies at this time. 2 new applications were received by John Childers Jr., who previously served on the committee, and Gregory Follett. Council members Aguilar, Hernandez, and Soto each have a nomination to fill on this committee to fill unexpired terms ending in January 2027. Councilmember Escobedo also has an additional nomination to fill an unexpired term ending in January 2025. Following the nominations, an appointment will then be confirmed by the mayor with ratification by the city council.
I would like to nominate John Childers for the Measure U Citizens Oversight Committee.
I will accept that nomination. So,
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Did Councilmember Soto want to make a nomination to this?
Sure. I was just taking one at a time.
Oh, you
Okay.
want to do one per vote? Okay.
Okay.
So the
Call the roll.
motion.
Okay, I have a first and a second.
Okay. Councilmember Aguilar Hernandez.
Aye.
Mayor Patino.
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero.
Aye.
And Mayor Pro Tem Soto.
Aye.
Okay, Councilmember Soto, do you have a nomination at this time?
Yes, I will nominate Gregory Foyette.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk can call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Soto.
Aye.
Councilmember Aguilar Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero.
Aye.
And Mayor Patino.
Aye. Okay.
No new applications were received for the Central Coast Commission for Seniors, the Area Agency on Aging, nor the Santa Barbara County Library Advisory Council. The city clerk's office will continue to advertise these vacancies along with the remaining open positions, and we expect to bring the appointments back for the additional nominations, including Councilmember Escobedo's nominations in August.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Posada, on the Santa Barbara County Library Advisory Committee, can we put a staff person in there?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a discussion with the Director of Library Services, Ms. Jackson, and Ms. Jackson already serves on that committee as the staffer. So we believe that it does have to be a member of the community.
Okay.
But if we hear differently, we'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next will be a report by Interim City Manager, Mr. Posada.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Just very quickly, a reminder that there will be no August 6th council meeting. That'll be National Night Out, and as mentioned earlier by Sergeant Diaz, they certainly invite you to come out to the Fair Park for the festivities there. For your August 20th meeting, we do have closed sessions planned. That'll begin at 4:30. Let's see, we have some proclamations, including Library Card Sign-Up Month. We'll do our Hometown Heroes presentation. We'll look at a presentation on the Caltrans Beautification Grant on Broadway that you may have seen some of the impacts of the painted crosswalks, some artwork on some of the light fixtures along Broadway. And we'll have a report from on that project. Limited time parking on Air Park. There'll be some other miscellaneous items coming up. We will again have appointments come back to you. I mentioned to, I believe, each of you during your briefings that City Manager's Office will undertake a particularly strong effort in the next month to publicize the vacancies and the opportunity that residents have to, be part of their local government by joining a commission, committee, or a board. So we're going to try to make it easier for you all to get some nominations in. The finance will give the fourth quarter report, closing out last fiscal year. We hope to have a discussion on the stormwater basin policy that has kind of been lingering for a while. There'll be a report on the response to the grand jury. This is a placeholder item. Hopefully we'll be all ready to go for that meeting on the 20th. And looks like you have an appeal to a traffic committee determination on the schedule at this time. There will be an item coming for you for the September 3rd meeting, the day after Labor Day, that meeting be canceled, and that we look at September 17th for the next council meeting. And I will end my report there.
Thank you. So reports from council members. Mr. Cordero, let me start with you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the 19th, I attended a special session here at the City Hall for council. I also attended the Santa Maria Police Council, the golf tournament, and comedy show and dinner out at the country club. That was an outstanding event, as it always is. My 15-year-old grandson golfed in the tournament, and he was real happy with himself. I attended the Looking Forward Forum awards dinner out at the Radisson, which was also a very nice program. I attended a Zoom meeting for the council for the elected leaders on homelessness. On the 26th, this is really kind of unique for me. I attended a 3CE meeting in Atascadero, at the Atascadero City Hall. And if you just have an hour and you're going up that freeway and you can stop at that City Hall, it is worth the stop. It's an outstanding building. It's real old, has the big tundra, I guess you'd call it. And that's the organization we're involved with obtaining reusable energy, or renewable energies for our own grid here at electricity. On the 27th, I attended the ribbon cutting out at Merle Gardens, and that was also a very nice event. So we talked to some great people that were in their senior years over there. And then on the 12th, I attended the fire department's graduation ceremony at Allen Hancock College, which was an equally well-done event. I mentioned to our fire chief that it was an outstanding event that they put on out there. And there was food, and it was just great to see us recognizing our people over at that event. And that's it for me, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Aguilera Hernandez?
Yes, so I attended the graduation ceremony for the fire department. I also went to the Marion Hospital, had a graduation for the resident program, and I was able to attend that. It was really nice to see the doctors and see them graduate from the program. I also went to the Merrill Gardens ribbon cutting. And I also went to on the 4th of July, the city of Santa Maria had the Rec and Parks, they had a Red, White, and Zoom event where they opened up the pool and had activities, and I attended that with my family. It was really nice. Yep.
Ms. Soto?
No reportable items.
Okay. On the 18th, I attended the police department badge pinning and promotions. On June 19th, I interviewed 2 women for Teen Reach Coordinator. On the 20th of June, I attended the SBK monthly board meeting in the morning and the APCD board meeting in the afternoon. That evening, went to Your People Professionals' 40th anniversary. I can't believe they've been here this long, but they have. Sandra Dickerson does an amazing job. June 21st, I attended the Santa Maria Police Council fundraiser dinner. On June 22nd, I did the 2024 Marion Resident Programs graduation at Presqu'île, which is amazing. They have a residency program, so for family medicine and OBGYN. And what's the good part about this is a lot of the people have never heard of the Central Coast. They come here and they love it and they want to stay. And we certainly need, it's the best way to recruit and retain, because we really need the doctors in the area. On June 23rd, I did the 2024 Life Walk and the California Alliance of Local Elected Meetings. They meet on Sunday afternoon, which is, I don't always make that. On the 24th, I attended the PAC committee meeting, the June 26th Marion Regional Foundation Board meeting, and the Pioneer Picnic Board meeting. June 27th, I attended the ribbon cutting at Merrill Gardens. On the 28th of June, the Virtual Partners in Education Board meeting. On June 29th, the Livable California teleconference. And June 30th, again, the California Alliance of Local Electeds. July 2nd, the Ag Awards dinner and kickoff at the Fair Park. And I did attend at behind Abel Maldonado Center, Recreation Parks, Red, White, and Blue Zoom celebration with the drones. I had never seen that before, and our Recs and Parks did such a fantastic job. And I think they said they had about 1,000 people there, and all ages, everyone, and they were so excited to see that. I had never seen one before, so I wound up going alone. Nobody wanted to go with me, but I wanted to see it. So on June 8th, I attended a legislative briefing on the Lake Fire. On July 9th, the Marion Foundation Legacy Society Luncheon and the preview event of the Santa Barbara County Fair. On the 10th of July, I did a webinar on the California Cities Grants Pass versus Johnson. And that day did the ribbon cutting at Santa Barbara County Fair, and they even asked me to hand out the banners and the buckles for the Champion Award winners. July 12th, Fighting Back Santa Maria Valley Board meeting, and attended the Santa Maria Fire Department graduation and promotional ceremony, and that was absolutely amazing, and that was held at Hancock. July 13th was the 100th annual Santa Maria Pioneer Valley Association picnic, and again, Parks and Recs did a fantastic job of having that ready. When you don't get any complaints, you know you guys have done a perfect job. July 14th, again, California Alliance of Local Electeds. So, and that's it. But, and I was telling them at the Pioneer Picnic meeting, I said, when we know that we never get a complaint, you guys are doing a fantastic job, but I don't know how many dinners they served or how many people but it was packed. And then the next day they had the car show, and our first concert in the park was there. So it's been a busy week for them. So any further comments from the dais? If not, this meeting is adjourned.